right? Like when a giant shows up, then it's like,
yeah,
sure.
People start biting each other's head off.
Yeah, it's like, man, I'd be happy if you shot it, but I'd also
be a lot happier if I shot it.
It'd be a lot better that way.
HUNTR Podcast is brought to you by Deer Grow.
Man, we've been using Deer Grow products for a long time. The Plot Start and Plot Boost, more recently Plot Till. Now we've got 3 new liquid fertilizers that have been put in the mix that will cover everything we could want for a food plot program.
It's huge, man. The more food plotting we do, it's like, man, the liquids just make sense. Like whether it's herbicides or the Plot Start and Plot Boost, and now the fertilizers getting mixed in. It's like, man, I can combine all of those in certain cases and do less passes for more results.
I mean, it's all about efficiency. I mean, like you said, less passes. If you're out there treating your beans with glyphosate in the summertime, you can mix in this fertilizer, do that all at once. You have the boost in there that helps the metabolism. It's all about efficiency when we're talking about food plots. And really the big difference on these liquid fertilizers is you're bypassing some of these soil limitations, pH limitations, the soil type. In a lot of cases, we talk about dry fertilizers only being available for 17% of what you put down in the first year. These liquid fertilizers straight into the plant are 90% available in the first year. Huge difference in what you're going to see in growth.
It's huge. And so right now you can use code HUNTR15 for 15% off any of the Deer Grow products on their website. And as always,
better food plots, bigger deer. And we're back.
Ew.
HUNTR Podcast, episode 210, as Nick keeps us in line. We were just talking, like, we're getting to the numbers now where it's like, boy, that'd be a great score for a buck this year. 210 is starting to get out of reach pretty quickly.
It's getting out of reach, yeah.
Got to rewind back to the 120.
Yeah. Yeah. No 200s shown for you in Columbus yet?
I think all the deer died in Columbus.
Did they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're getting smoked out there.
Are they?
Mm-hmm.
Are they're finding a bunch on the property?
No, that property. Well, I don't know. That property doesn't seem like it's found any. No, there's one that's like probably mid 50s that they have, and that's it. Actually, I deleted all the cameras out of my app, so I don't see them. I don't know.
I got another one shared with me today, so that's nice. I love that in the command app that you can share those. Yeah,
yeah, that's cool.
I don't even know who runs. The only confusing part is who runs what.
It's the original account that set it up. Because I remember when we were trying to change our settings on Illinois.
Well, I know, but that's what I mean. Finding out who.
Oh.
Because Jed shares cameras with me. I share cameras with you.
Yeah.
You know, we get our HUNTR account and stuff. But,
yeah. Gotcha.
Well, hey, before we get going, appreciate you guys being here, wherever you're listening to us from, YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcast.
Or newly.
I think, we're on iHeartRadio now too, which is just like
I didn't even know what that was.
RSS feed on there. So if you like that, you can check those out. Mm-hmm. Give us a like, follow, or subscribe, whatever's appropriate for the channel. We really are humbled by, when you do that, just seeing subscribers and stuff. It's fun. That's not why we do it, but it is cool to see people engaging with the channel. So one of those, we'll give you a notification whenever we drop these episodes, but they are 6 p.m. Eastern time on Tuesday and Thursday nights.
Mm-hmm.
If you've written us on the website or on Instagram DM, those are the two we try to keep up with the best. We're a little bit behind, but appreciate you reaching out there. We will get back with you at some point. And lastly, if you're into our merch, we've got some cool stuff popping up now and then. Got some hats, some hoodies, some Nalgene's here at some point. Those will all be on the website. So if you want, you guys can check those out.
Check them out.
And other than that, here we go.
And you're listening to this, what did we say, October 15th?
Yep, 15th.
Is this a Tuesday, man?
Yeah.
That's weird. October 15th.
Oh my gosh.
I know.
So if it was really October 15th, I would be punching the panic button at this point.
Well, October 15th, we were just kind of like trying to figure schedules out this morning. It's like, well, we could be in Illinois.
We could.
Maybe we should. Maybe we should.
Burgundy?
Yeah, we could be.
Yes, we could be.
We could be.
Uh-huh. It'll be weather dependent probably.
Dude, that's a good. We didn't really get a chance to face discuss that crazy horse buck.
It's a good buck.
It's a giant.
Yeah, stud. I feel like he's gonna be turned to dust when we put an arrow through him.
Bet he's mid-60s.
Yep, I think so.
He ain't gonna like that. He ain't gonna like that Sever hybrid.
Yeah, he'll definitely be one of those ones that just comes in and when you hit him.
He's a giant. Nick, did I send you a picture of that deer? The one at North Food Plot in Illinois.
Deer's all over 300 on the hoof.
I bet he is.
Yeah, he looks like a bull.
I bet he is. Brackett said last year he took a deer in that was probably 310 or something on the hoof, and he won like a white bow at the local.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's a local shot.
That deer is a pig.
That's what he said. He's like, that deer would probably take it.
It's a pig.
He's like, you should enter that deer if you kill it.
is it Brahma bulls that have like the hump on their back?
Yeah.
That's what he looks like.
Yeah. Yes, he does.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. Yeah. Well, we're recording this October 1st. So we're in preparation for what's about to come in the next 2 weeks when you finally get to listen to this. Maybe we have a deer dead by now. Jared already is calling shots.
We got one dead tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, so we'll see how that one plays out.
Maybe a parlay on
he's
Thursday.
He's been betting the parlay. Not sure how it works, but he's putting it down. He's betting house.
The over-under on Thursday, I think, is about a 40% odd.
So yeah, we've got
maybe 30.
Got 30, a little 40. Bit. We were just talking with our guest here pre-podcast. Got a little bit of a front here, and then another one coming in next week. So yeah, it's kind of... This is that sweet time period, though, that really, if you catch that right weather front, especially precipitation, then it sunny, cools off, scrapes are deadly mid-October. I mean,
just ride the wave, man. Feel the weather, ride the wave, kill the deer.
That's it. They're just deer.
Yeah,
they're just deer. At the end of the day. So we got cool guests today, right? Yeah. Cool guests. We got JJ Dukart coming on from Minnesota. And
from the Society of Deer, as they say.
The Society of Deer. Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely. We were just playing around. Sent us black racks and
he knows I'm a sucker for free shit. So yeah, he sent us a box of black racks and stuff.
Yep, and we're hooked. So so it'd be cool. Got JJ on to talk. Obviously, I think a lot of people have seen, I don't know what I would call them, like viral type video clips from Deer Society that have been coming up over the last few years, probably at least.
Yeah. Well, they kill some giant deer. That's why they go viral. But it's just a video series, I think. And he'll explain, like, the Deer Society, I believe, is just like the content arm of, or media arm, you would say, of, like the Black Rack products and the phase systems. And, they've got several products under their umbrella. Yeah. So, and they've done an awesome job with it. I mean, like I said, they kill some giant deer and they do a nice job with it. So.
Perfect case in point of like using the products, like the content to drive the products for the customer. I mean, you see that stuff, and also you see a bunch of the guys that are using it, and you're like, that makes sense.
Yeah, it's a good model. It makes sense.
Yep. So, let's go ahead and bring JJ in.
How's it going?
All right, brother. We appreciate you coming on this afternoon from, you said what, Southeast Minnesota?
Yep, Southeast Minnesota, just outside Rochester. I don't know if you've been in the area or not.
Oh, yeah.
Known for the Mayo Clinic. We got a really worldwide leading health system here. So that's really what we're known for. But you know what? We got a couple big deer walking around on the edge of town too. So
yeah,
we're not too far from Wisconsin, not too far from Iowa. Kind of in a little sweet spot.
Yeah, well, that's cool, man. When we talk to people kind of in that area, and it's hard to kind of visualize it, but yeah, like you said, you've got Wisconsin there, you've got Iowa there. Like we were at the DeQuistos not too long ago, and he's like, "Hey, you'd be in Wisconsin here, Minnesota here." Like,
how far would we have been there from the Minnesota line?
We weren't far.
Really?
Yeah, at all.
That corner is weird to me. It's like they're
Your
all so close.
Really
right
not good.
Well, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, the three are like interchangeable to me.
Yeah. And they're the upper Midwest,
which is negligible. I shouldn't say that.
You often refer to them as the Northeast, but they're the upper Midwest.
Yeah, upper Midwest. Yeah. I would say we're in the Northeast.
We are in the Northeast. Yes, correct. So, but yeah, man, well, first of all, appreciate you coming on, spending some time with us. So, I guess JJ, get started. Mentioned Minnesota, born and raised in Minnesota.
Yep, from the area here, Rochester, and that's where I grew up, and pretty much this is where I learned to hunt. And right now, I'm just doing border bouncing, Wisconsin, Minnesota, keeping it pretty simple. But yeah, that's where the business has always been located.
Yep.
I'm 37 years old now. I don't know if I look it or not, but I've been around the block. I'm starting to feel pretty old. So yeah, family business with the illusion on the start. I don't know if you just want to dive into.
Yeah, man, let's wrap.
Okay. So yeah, basically grew up Southeast Minnesota. My dad was, he worked at Mayo.
Okay.
Just kind of general service there, and decided he wanted to kind of split off and did a bunch of waterfowl guiding. So he was into goose hunting, duck hunting. Mm-hmm. It's actually where the Canadian goose, I think, was founded once again when they thought it was extinct. It was right here at Silver Lake.
Oh, wow.
Western Minnesota. So had a really good population of geese. My dad got into the whole guiding thing where I don't know if you've been on a goose hunt or not, but they dig pits into the ground and they're heated, and it's a real big community
Oh yeah.
aspect of that kind of hunting, calling, communication. The geese come in, they work the decoys, flip the switch, and the clients, pop up and start shooting birds. So that's kind of how the whole business started, was in the waterfowl space. And then surely transitioned over the past few decades, and here we are in the deer world.
And so growing up, being that he was in the guide side of things and waterfowl, I mean, were you guys deer hunters growing up? I mean, was that a big part of the family?
We always deer hunted, but it wasn't taken real seriously to start. So
Okay.
I was always super passionate about it. Like I would wake up, imagine a 7, 8, 9-year-old kid waking up in the mornings on the weekend and just, bringing my blanket in the living room and watching monster bucks and, what all the little kids did when they grew up loving deer hunting.
Yep.
But my dad was working as more of the goose guide. So it was waterfowl focused. Like that's where the business was. He got into that and got into making calls because he was trying to get those geese in a lot closer.
Got it.
Try to get the clients, better shot opportunities, because when you're bringing people hunting that maybe don't have a lot of experience, you want to make that shot as easy as possible. So let's try to bring these geese in close, with decoy strategies, playing the wind, how the decoys or geese react to that setup, communicate with them, try to really create the illusion. And that's how things kind of started. He started whittling away at wooden calls, buying different parts, reeds, shaving reeds, tuning calls. And that's how the whole calling system came about. So started with geese. It's a lot more complicated vocabulary than deer.
Yeah.
But, I think that's just a good foundation where he came from with that to then transition into turkey was next after waterfowl. And he made, a lot of waterfowl calls. So it was like Canadian geese, snow geese, speckle bellies, teal, the mallards, the diver ducks.
Cool.
So grew up with all that. And I was, actually tuning calls probably at the age of, 12 or something, and they're pressing calls and tuning calls. So that transitioned into turkey, got into the friction stuff with pot calls, box calls, mouth calls, diaphragms, all that good stuff. Tuned a bunch of those up in my days as a young kid. And then deer's kind of where my passion was. So when I went through the whole school process, went to college, kind of came back, I was all about deer. So he invented the extinguisher deer call.
Yep.
The concept there was just, again, solving a problem. So for geese, it was always get them in closer. For deer, it was how do I make a call that doesn't freeze up? And that's where that slide system came into play. So he designed it for breaking loose a frozen reed, but ended up changing the tone of the call. And then that was probably the most beneficial aspect of the call. And that's where things went. So then deer market's much larger than turkey waterfowl. And once we got into that space, started having some good success. I pretty much jumped in full time, totally on board with everything. And we gave it a go. And
very cool.
Now things have taken on a new life since then, the past decade. So
I guess I'm curious, JJ, like with his like guiding side and kind of the waterfowl calls being thing, like as a 7, 8, 9-year-old, what drove you into deer? Like who was it, or what really put you in that mindset?
I don't know. I just fell in love with deer. I just see them on the magazines, see them in the shows, just these monster bucks, those big old ones. And it wasn't something that you saw, like, my deer hunting growing up. At first it was just sitting with my dad.
Right.
But I used to just kind of be obsessed with, he'd go out hunting before he would take me, and he'd come back and I would just be looking at his camel, like, is there blood? Like, is there hair on the tailgate? Did he get a deer? Like, he wouldn't tell me. He'd just kind of, come home and just see if I could figure it out.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I just got obsessed with it. And if you got a deer, it was like the most incredible thing. And I was just really love deer. I don't know what it is, but it's just, I love goose hunting, pheasant hunting, so many different aspects of that too. Working dogs with upland birds and turkey hunting, the communication, decoying those birds in, and tons of strategy with all that. But then deer was just an obsession. So I don't really know why.
Yeah.
But that's just where my love is. So.
Yeah. Cause I mean, I think people think of, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania. You think about these deep-rooted deer hunting traditions, and primarily, especially if we look at like the 90s and early 2000s, very, the gun hunting, deer camp type tradition side of things, even into the 80s, I guess. And obviously we've kind of bounced around like how bow hunting has evolved and become so much more popular in today. But yeah, it's always interesting to hear kind of like, which we've been trying to narrow down like what has been that moment or that
Unburdened
trigger
by what has been.
Yeah. Yeah. That just, has pulled us into that mindset of like it's deer. Like deer is the thing. That's the top of the mountain.
Yeah, I mean, just once you see a big buck for the first time, that's over.
Yeah.
There's nothing that compares to it.
Yes.
You have that encounter. You probably mess it up because it's your first hunt, first big buck encounter. But once you experience that, there's just no turning back.
Yeah. Yeah, I think as part of it is like because I was the same way. Like I didn't waterfowl hunt as much, but I grouse hunted a lot, I turkey hunted a lot, and it's like, I wasn't passing a 2-year-old gobbler to shoot a 3-year-old gobbler. If I saw, a full adult tom, it was like, there it is.
Turkey hunters won't like to hear this, but it's the evolution of the species. It's like, it's the pinnacle, right?
Yeah.
It is. They're the hardest. They're the hardest to kill. Like of the available species, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's like you can make an argument for elk or
Sure.
Other Western species and stuff. But as far as the Midwest and like,
Yep.
they're the hardest to kill, especially a mature whitetail buck.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's like you and I talk about. So you can go out and kill a turkey a day if you wanted. I mean, we couldn't, but guys that have some idea
Sure.
what they're doing.
Yeah.
That's
No, I
why.
would
That's
agree.
why.
Yeah.
They're the highest evolution of species.
There's so few of them, right? Like to what JJ's saying is like when you see that big buck coming in, like he is one of a bunch of deer maybe in the area, but it's just one deer that is of usually that size. It's not like there's 15 of them working through there and you're like, well, just, one of them's going to come in at some point.
Guys are wired for them too. I think deer hunters are different. Not that you can't do them both, but like the most obsessed whitetail deer hunters seem to be, JJ, you've encountered like a lot of, you guys know Rising and a bunch, like they're obsessive people and they're driven to like, they have to do it like at the highest level. I think that waterfowl hunting and turkey hunting and stuff, it's just, not that you can't achieve a super high level of success at it, but it's like, it's more of a numbers game. And it's just a different, like, hey, I really enjoy with waterfowl, like the spread and having like, having them react and do a certain way. And whereas like, not that it's always an evolution, but I think the deer is more just, it's me versus them. It's a one-on-one. I want to control the situation. I want to master like the most dominant animal in the woods.
Yep.
And that's what it is. That's of course we fall in love with it,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think, growing up, I kind of fell into and it's more of the gun hunting. It was the deer drives. Like that's how deer hunting was 20 years ago, 25 years ago, even for me.
Yep.
That's where I got introduced to it. But then my dad he kind of pulled me and my brother out of that, bought us bows, got us into the bow hunting thing. I've never actually shot a deer with a gun.
Yeah.
Shot
Interesting.
almost $20 with a bow.
I shot my first one. I shot my first one last year, JJ. My first buck. I've shot some does and stuff, but my first buck last year with a gun.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
it's 30.
Huh?
You were 30.
Yeah.
Was it a muzzleloader?
No, it was a slug. Yep, it was on our Illinois farm. So I mean, the first deer I ever shot was with a 30-30, Marlin, like everybody pretty much. Mm-hmm. And then quickly evolved into the bows because my uncle was a bow hunter, and then I was like, oh, this is like a different thing. We're hunting October and stuff, and yeah, just never, for whatever reason, I was more about like patrolling the property, and I went out, I think, with a gun a few times, or I would take my bow during gun season, and just never had the opportunity. And then last year, Jeremy and I bought a farm in Illinois. I'd already killed a buck with my bow, so I only could kill one with a gun at that point. So we're like, well, let's go sit and monitor the property first day, and sure enough, here comes this big old 6-year-old buck and I had my dad in the tree with me and grunted him in and crushed him.
That's interesting that your dad kind of pulled you out of that, you and your brother out of that. I mean, because like I said, it's such a deep-rooted tradition in that state, especially 25 years ago.
Yeah, and I would naturally like ask my dad, hey, can I go on the deer drive with, Uncle X, and can I do that? And I would actually, I would go by myself, stay with family and do some of the deer drives, but on the side, I was always bow hunting.
Mm-hmm.
So I have gun hunted early.
Yep.
And I'm not opposed to shooting deer with guns by any means,
Right.
But I think I'm very appreciative that he did bring me up through the bow hunting route, because it just forced me to learn through a lot of mistakes, a lot of big bucks, and that's probably what got me hooked. Like seeing big bucks, I have no idea what they're thinking. There's not the education that there is out there now, nowadays. And I was just clueless, like not playing the wind, no scent control, just hunting that same stand, see the big buck, don't know why it's not working. And just kind of being frustrated. And then you just start to, well, what's going on here? And you start to learn new stuff. And just over the years, just keep building up the knowledge base and trying to dial it in. So it's advanced the past 10 years more than it did the first 10 years. But definitely appreciate the fact that we got into bow hunting as a family and went that route, because now I can go back and, it's just probably a little bit more efficient if I do want to go gun hunting. I'm going to take those same tactics, but now I just extend my range.
Yes.
And have better results too.
So JJ, you said your dad worked at the Mayo Clinic and then retired and became a waterfowl guide full time. Is that right?
Yeah, well, it wasn't full time because you don't really get paid too much doing the
I wouldn't imagine.
Yeah. Yeah, he was trying to shift that direction. Guiding was not a full-time job, couldn't support the family. Fortunately, my mom had a pretty good job, so he was able to flex into it a little bit.
Nice.
And then once, really the only way to make money was to make products at that point. So then trying to make goose calls and trying to sell that. He was the first one to really do instructional, like we call them calling systems. So he would package them with an orange VHS tape at the time, like a big old VHS vacuum sealed into the packaging with the call, and they would record the videos and edit those up. And it's a full-on instructional. So we've continued that even until today. Just trying to educate people how to use the products, not just like, hey, here you go.
Yeah, that's huge.
Figure it out.
Yeah.
So it's we look at them as systems. We've always called them systems, whether it's a calling system, scent control system. Like, give people what they need to be successful. Otherwise, they're not going to be successful, and they're not going to like the product. They're probably not going to like your brand. So I think that's equally, if not more important than the product itself. Yeah. Although you need a product that works.
And are those waterfowl and turkey calls sold under the Illusion brand as well?
Yeah, and it's been probably 20 years since we've sold waterfowl calls. But yeah, it was under, started out as Sportsman Scene guiding service, and then Illusion was that brand. And he's got some old throwback stuff where it's a big embroidered logo, and it's got like a sunset or sunrise on it with like geese flying through it.
Yeah.
It's a pretty solid throwback.
And so he was doing okay then with the call business then. Yeah, I know what you said. Your mom had a solid job there, but he was doing all right with it selling the calls.
Yeah, so he was able to, and I mean, it's always, bootstrapping deal, starting a new business. And there were definitely some stressful times where, you didn't know what was going to happen, definitely during recessions and stuff too. But we got through those, fortunately, learned some hardships and got through it. But yeah, he shifted into doing that mostly full time. And that's what we're doing now. But yeah, it was a struggle at times. But he got some traction, got into at the time, Gander Mountain.
Dude, Gander Mountain was awesome.
Yeah, I think we had the first Gander Mountain in Rochester, if I'm not mistaken.
You did.
I think that was the original.
Headquarters was right up there. Mm-hmm.
That was one of the only places that sold like trapping supplies at a retail, other than like a small, they trapping supply company. Stuff. Yeah, they did.
And Victor's.
Yeah. So, I mean, would you say, JJ, that your dad and you guys got into the deer call direction because that was your interest after college, or?
I think a combination of things, but I definitely pushed that direction. That's where I wanted to go. That's where the market was the largest. We were starting to see pretty good success with it. Knew we had a good product. Started connecting the dots. I started kind of scoping out, who these awesome deer hunters were, who we could work with on the video side. And that's where you see the original, the Rod White's Olympic gold medalists. And some of these breakdowns with Colton, like Mr. Maybe and Advanced Whitetail Systems guys who we still work with. Some of these teams we started getting on board and filming for what was at the time not Deer Society, transitioned into Deer Society. But yeah, just started recruiting people that were very good deer hunters, test the product out, show people how to use it. They were teaching us, we were teaching them. It was a great back and forth thing, like just great collaboration, and just grew from there.
Awesome. And you got a brother too, right?
Yep, I got a brother. He's 2 offices over right now.
Is he good? Is he good at deer hunting too, or not so much?
Yeah, he's into it. He actually left. He was in the Marines for
Oh.
a while there, so he got deployed, went to Iraq and stuff.
Okay.
Wasn't around during the when I got back out of college and we started going more full in deer. But then when he came back, he's into it now, but it was a little bit of a transition back into deer. So
cool. So what was the evolution of, or I guess I should say, was the extinguisher? That was like the first flagship product. Is that where it all kind of started?
Yeah, pretty much. And that's kind of where we've been since, just focusing on the deer calling system. We got a new version of it this year, and we've done, the black rack system's been big. That kind of came in
later.
second.
Okay.
Yeah, those are kind of the 2 core deer calling things. And then since then we've extended into different categories of deer hunting, like scent control and with the phase line, things like that.
The HUNTR Podcast is brought to you by Hoyt.
What can we say, man? Another year back with Hoyt. We're both shooting RX8s. I'm shooting 70 pounds in the bourbon, which I love bourbon.
That's great.
And you're shooting 80 pounds in the straight black.
Blacked out as always, man. I got the, so I'm shooting the 500 grain Easton Arrow this year. And at 80 pounds, I'm flinging that thing at like 300 feet per second. I mean, it's deadly. Put a water buffalo in front of me and he's done.
I mean, we shot it earlier. You literally put an arrow through a brand new target, like never been shot before.
I know. So one other thing that Hoyt is doing this year is they're making all their own strings in-house. And so the quality is top notch, and it just really is something that is setting them apart from their competitors.
Well, what we always try to do when we go to our bow shop, Ultimate Outdoors, is we try to shoot other bows just to make sure that we are really giving everybody a fair chance.
Sure.
The reality is it's a no-brainer. Hoyt, it stands above all of them every single time.
Definitely. And so right now you can use code HUNTR, HUNTR, for 20% off any apparel on the Hoyt website. And as always,
get serious, get Hoyt. Can I pivot this? I think this is really cool because I know where I stand on it. And JJ, we've talked to, it's number 210. So we've talked to a lot of deer hunters. I am a giant fan of calling. Like I've killed most of my bucks probably by calling them in. But I've heard from like so many here, even recently, that they're like, they don't call, right? I don't know if it's they're like, well, I just don't want them to know I'm there, or I don't know if they don't feel comfortable. It seems really surprising to me, being that, spend a lot of time in the woods. I hear vocalizations, I hear these things that are happening naturally. And yet some, what I would consider very successful hunters, are like, yeah, I don't do it. I don't carry a call with me. I don't bring antlers with me. I don't do any of that stuff.
Well, it's kind of one of those topics that everybody has an opinion, which is awesome because there's so many different ways to be successful too. So it's some guys love to call a lot. Some guys don't. Some guys believe in scent control. Some don't.
Yep.
Some, there's so many different strategies, but guess what? A lot of people are successful doing different things. So it's not something we like to debate. Like, you got to call or you don't.
Sure.
Like, I call differently than my dad. He's more aggressive. I'm more subtle.
Okay.
I'm like a sneaky guy. I'm like a little, ninja sliding around the woods, but he likes to go out there and, he wants to call. He's a goose caller. He's a goose guy.
Yeah.
He's a goose guy. He wants to communicate with animals, turkeys.
Right.
He's out there ripping on it. But I'm, sliding in there and just subtle little grunt.
Yeah.
Little estrus bleat, called my buck in 2 years ago with just little estrus bleat, November 20th, followed by some contact grunts, popped out of the bedding area, 6-year-old buck, walked right in, great shot. Skyscraper is the hunt breakdown. If
we've seen it. Yep.
And are you blind calling those?
That was blind calling.
Okay.
So close to a bedding area.
Yeah.
Real tight cover. Barely had enough room to even film. It was just way too tight in there. But he was bedded there. They would call him up. And that's, with the neighbors shooting guns all afternoon. It was gun season somewhere.
Right.
Dirt bikes are flying off on different properties and people are going crazy. And I was kind of thinking, this is just, I want to be out in the wild, I want to be like quiet. And so it wasn't my favorite evening of hunting. I was pretty stressed out. Just don't like all that noise and stuff. But then it calmed down those last 45 minutes, 30 minutes, magic hour, a little bit of communication and season's over. So that's my strategy. A little bit more subtle.
You're not alone there. You're not alone there, by the way, JJ. We all feel like our dads are bulls in a china shop. So, yeah, you give my dad a pair of rattling horns. It's like,
yeah.
Sounds like a lumber mill up there, you know?
Yeah, exactly. For sure. No, I mean, it's funny. You're right. It's not a debate because, I mean, a lot of people, like I said, a lot of those guys have been super successful that way.
Well, it's a tool, right? And you can overutilize the tool and you can cause damage. Like, it can have a negative effect, but you're going to miss out on opportunities, you know.
Especially when we're talking about
if you don't use it,
right? Like, you know, if we're using the same tactics and we have a gun that extends our range, yeah, I mean, it's still useful, but I get it. When I'm trying to get that deer within 30 yards, right? Like, those tools become infinitely more important in my toolbox, basically. Like, whether he's there or it's blind calling, the fact is I've got to get him into this very small visible range.
Yeah.
And just by chance of, like, he takes this trail or hits a script, like, that can happen. But surely, like, having those tools in the toolbox can infinitely help you on that.
Well, like, there's been situations where, and everybody can probably relate to this. It's like, as you know, and I brought I've got Goose's antler, my shed antlers that I've had like forever. And they're a pain in the butt to pack every time. It's just like, I gotta strap them a certain way. And it's like this whole, you know, procedure for getting them out there. And every single time I'm getting ready to put them on my pack, I'm like, am I really going to do this? Like, why? And then in the back of my mind, I'm like, I'm going to see that sucker at 350 yards out there running does around a field, and I'm not going to have anything to call at him with. The grunt call is not going to reach her and stuff. So yet again, I go packing my horns in there, and you never know. That's when it pays off.
Yeah.
But.
Yeah, and you guys know, like, every state, every area of the country has different success because of buck-doe ratios, you know, hunting populations, and how just deer react to
pressure.
Calling. You know, you go to Kansas and people are rattling in bucks all the time.
Yep.
Maybe a state like Michigan, even Minnesota, we got a lot of hunters here too.
Mm-hmm.
You'll hear people rattle.
Oh, yeah.
On different properties. You're like, that doesn't sound good over there. You should probably calm it down a little bit. Yeah, it's just every situation is different. So I think just say, like, you should do this right now. You should do this right now. This week you should do that. Like, that doesn't make sense for everybody. Let them kind of use, you know, their own intuition on what's best, but give them at least the knowledge and the tools. Okay, this is sparring. This is how you spar. This is a contact grunt. This is a breeding grunt. This is what this means. You can use it right now. It means this. What's that deer thinking that you're hunting? I don't know, because I'm not sitting there. I don't know if he's been pressured. I don't know if you shot at him last week. You know, there's too many variables to say what you should do, but we just try to educate on people on what the communication means, how we've successfully used it, show that footage. That's kind of the Deer Society Hunt breakdowns. And then just let people use their own skills, get the job done.
All right. Yeah. Here's a grunt test / question for you. I don't know the right answer. So, but you feel like you're fairly efficient at what different grunts kind of mean and stuff?
Yep.
Okay. And it's not a test, so
we'll see.
What? Yeah. So, because Jeremy and I don't know what we're saying. I know what I think sounds good, and I'm like, yeah, that sounds good. But I don't know what it means necessarily. What is like a roar, right? Like, you're familiar with, so it's just like a roar, like a loud followed by a couple grunts. So in what situation is that appropriate? Because that's, if I'm not snort wheezing, I'm defaulting to, I like it aggressive, like a bark almost.
I mean, it's pretty aggressive.
Yeah.
There's a breeding grunt, which is what we consider like the croaking, which is that longer.
Yeah.
Have you guys seen?
You have one there with you? Oh yeah, we've seen them all. Do you have a call there with you?
I don't have one on me. I thought about it, but I don't. Maybe if we take a little break, I'll grab one.
Yeah, we'll do that.
So that's a breeding grunt. That's a buck that's actively breeding a doe. So a lot of times you'll
What's
see
that sound like?
A doe's in this little thicket, could be out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
And this buck's basically on her, actively breeding her for a day or two, whatever that case might be. And he's just making this loud,
like croak.
Croaker. So I was actually the cameraman on the croaker hunt.
Okay.
You ever watch that hunt breakdown? So that was pretty cool. That buck croaked every day. I don't know what his deal was, but
a lot
he
of
was
breeding.
always out there just roar we've seen in the wild more of like we've personally seen it where a doe is in heat, buck kind of has her locked down, he's kind of charging her, trying to get her up, like, hey, like, start moving, like he's like barking at her. It's a bark kind of and it's also more of a distress. So I've been to like deer farms where they give deer shots and stuff, and the deer roar. They're like, Brah! So those are two different ways a deer would use that. but it's mostly based around that breeding. Like when it's real active breeding, like peak breeding season.
Yeah, for sure. Well, here's my my most memorable encounter with a buck that roared, and that's why I feel like it's appropriate when I use it. It was a muley buck, and I was down in the pinch.
Yep.
And he come off of a ridge. He's probably a 5-year-old buck at the time, and he came off this ridge, and he hit this little waterway up through a cornfield, and there was already 3 does next to me, just kind of like milling around, maybe like 40 yards, and it was just. That's why he ended up being out of range. But so he cut this waterway up, and then he come down and popped out right where these does were at. And I think he knew they were there. Like he was going to where they were going to be, And so he intercepted them there and started bumping them around. And that's when he started getting after. He just started kind of harassing them a bit, And I don't think any of them ended up being in heat or whatever. He did that and roared at him a couple times, and then some grunts and stuff. And then they kind of all dispersed. And then he worked up that ridge. It would have been maybe, I'm gonna guess it was like November 1st through the 3rd, probably. Then he went up to this next bidding area. I could hear him just going up that ridge, just and he hit it over here. And I'm just like, freaking, like there was no like discretion about it. Like he was just ripping up that ridge and like making his presence known, and so now I do it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, if he heard that, he'd probably piss him off, and he'd be like, he
would not like that.
He'd not like it.
Yeah. So if you know what that means, the bucks you're hunting, like, is that something that some bucks probably don't want to call?
Sure.
They're timid, they're shy.
Yeah.
And if you start throwing big roars at him, he's like, yeah, I'm going to
I'm
go
not
that way. So you got to kind of, use your scenario. Like, does that make sense to use right now for this buck you're hunting this year? So there's so many variables, but if you just know kind of what that means, you saw that example.
Yep.
Can you paint that same picture? Does that make sense?
Exactly.
For your hunt that night?
Yep. Well, and so here would be, I would never do that at a buck that I can see, unless he's like way off and I'm trying to like really stop him from what he's doing.
You never roar at him?
Not like if, for instance, if this deer's like 100 yards and just walking through the woods by himself, I'm not going to roar at him.
Yeah, I gotcha.
Nope. I'm going to, in that situation, again, let's say early November, late October even, I'm going to probably throw some grunts at him first. Just some like, I don't know what you would call it, a standard like, and a couple times. Like even after he looks once, if I feel like I'm hidden enough, I want him to look and confirm and be like, and then I'll let him, he's going to work a tree or whatever. And if for some reason he doesn't, like obviously I'm going to go to a snort wheeze. I'm not going to just roar at a deer that I've already engaged. I'm going to either have to stop him with it initially, or I'll do it blindly too, would be the other time.
Yeah. And we look at it like kind of working your way up the ladder. So yeah, you don't want to like spook them and yell at them.
Right.
Yeah. Hey. I know my dad uses the analogy all the time. Like if you're communicating as a person and we first meet and you're like, hey, how's it going? How's the day going? It's something soft, something normal.
Yeah.
You're not gonna be like, hey man, what's up? You're not gonna like scream at somebody and just put them on the defensive. So like work your way up the ladder, just something he can barely hear, a little contact grunt, and just get his attention. Then you can go from there. Like, is it the time of year where an estrus bleat might be what he's looking for? Sure. Is he looking for a doe? Or is he just, is he going to want to fight? And maybe that's something you go towards more buck, a little more aggressive, or maybe it's snort wheeze. That's pretty aggressive. But just work it up. Could be some light rattling. If it's the time of the year you want to be aggressive, you could smash.
I love the human analogy, dude. I think if you guys haven't already, that should be part of your education. Like, what this means. Like snort wheeze is like, or if a grunt is like, hey, what's up? Hey. The snort wheeze is like, what's up, bitch? Like, slightly more aggressive.
Slightly more aggressive. Not yelling at me yet. Just a little bit more vocal. Yeah. Well,
but it's important though, and it's the same for anything you're talking to, like turkeys. I'm sure you guys are out there when you're communicating with turkeys, and there's that one hen that she just wants to yell at you and be the boss hen.
Just yap.
And it's all about communication and the mindset and how you can trick them.
Well, just understanding, like, obviously from you as a hunter trying to call at and attract a deer, but just the surroundings, like one of the only, probably the only 200-inch deer I've ever had in range in Columbus. I was just sitting there, and I might have blind called or something before. I'm not real sure, but it's fairly early in the afternoon, and I remember hearing, like, in retrospect now,
Tending
a tending grunt coming down the hill. And at first, like I kind of heard it and I'm like, okay, that's a grunt. And like in the capture of like seeing this deer working into me, I didn't put 2 and 2 together until I saw the doe, and then I saw a buck satelliting them. And, you know, in those situations, it's like, you know, okay, he is got eyes on this probably, you know, 150-inch 3-year-old buck. He's got a doe. She's in between me and him. Like, I'm trying to almost get her to work and pull him through as much as I am. Like, I don't really even need to distract him, right? He's just going to pay attention to what she does. And I've killed several bucks by pulling that doe through shooting lanes. And in fact, the one up here, like, I mean, that deer knew that I was in the tree. I mean, he boogered at least once. I mean, looking right at me, and he's still like, yep, I'm going to go through this gap anyways. Like, it was suicide, you know, but it's understanding those different times of the year. And those
was there something you did to pull her through, or she was just doing what she was doing?
I ended up grunting real softly, and I do think I used a bleat one time, and it definitely got her towards the base of my tree, like just eased in. Like she heard it, and she couldn't see anything. And you know, I always say, like, at that time when they're really like under that spell, they're ditzy as hell. Like, she. Do
you think it was the grunt?
I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't know if she was like, you know, let me see what's over here because there was the doe bleat, or maybe it was the grunt and she was just pulling him through. But I mean, she definitely heard it and worked in and pulled right through the shooting lane. And like I said, he knew, like, he was eyeballing me in the tree the whole time, but it was suicide. It was 12 yards walking through.
Yeah. And that's a good example. You don't have to always call the buck in that you're after. You can call does in, you know, you can create a scenario and call young bucks in, but you definitely don't want to be spooking the doe.
Yes.
That's with the buck.
Yes.
You know, so you got to be just more aware than just laser focused on, there's the buck. I'm going to call it the buck.
Yeah.
You know, you got to really read the.
I wasn't going to snort wheeze at him with her at 7 yards, right?
Well, what is the prescription there? I mean, that would be huge to know. If a buck is with a doe, is there a call that will work to call her towards you?
Yeah, I mean, you could try to be. There's different ways you could try to play it. A lot of them are probably low odds if it's an actual doe that's in estrus and he's locked on her. Yeah. What's better than that, right?
Right.
Like, we're going to leave for like maybe another doe that's in estrus because that's maybe equal to, but not greater than. So like, what do you try to paint the picture of? Could be 2 bucks fighting. That might, you know, make him pretty pissed off, and try to challenge that, or try to just cut in between maybe that hot doe and you as 2 fighting bucks. I don't think there's like an answer for that, but
I think she's got something on her brain there. Like it's yeah, I don't know. Like, you know, obviously she's receptive at that point because they're locked down. But I do think that much like think about like if you're turkey hunting,
she just likes the attention. I think.
Yeah,
I think she's just like she likes feeling protected, and she's like, I'm just gonna frolic over here, and then eventually we're gonna go eat this. And
I mean, I know that
just stand by
you
me.
Don't like turkey hunting, but like if I've killed several gobblers by calling in the hen. Right, like it's just me and the hen back and forth, and it pulls him in the range, and you kill him.
Well, so my root of my question is, why are they coming to you?
I mean, obviously, hen turkey different in that scenario.
Similar analogy, though.
But in terms of the doe, I don't know. You know, like I said, maybe it's a social thing. You know, and that she heard me do you know, a soft bleed or something, and it was like, well, there's another doe over here. Like, I'm just gonna. I mean, does especially are social in that group aspect of things. But for sure, I think to JJ's point, I think you've got to, if you can figure it out, you've got a much better ability to pull her through and kill him than try to pull him off of her.
Yeah, I've not had very much success with that. The attitude generally seems to be like the doe will ignore you, and the buck is just like, come on, babe, let's get out of here.
Yeah,
like
they don't want it. He's keeping you over there.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, it's tough. That's probably the toughest scenario out there, is trying to call a buck off a hot doe. So if you guys figure out the solid answer that's always correct, then you let me know.
Yeah, I don't think it's always correct.
Who is the authority? Like, you know, obviously everybody's got different. Who's the best caller you know? I'm sorry, I'm making you choose between all your friends probably, but.
He's like, wait, I can't pick me?
It can be you.
I don't think anybody is the best because everybody does it so much differently. It's crazy. Like we break down, I get, over the years ingesting footage from all these teams and these top guys, and Adam Hayes does it one way. Ben Rising does it one way. This guy, I mean, they're all killing big deer.
Right.
One guy's just light sparring, blind calling right before dark. The other guy wants to see him, communicate with him. I mean, you look back at some of that stuff with Rod White.
Yep.
Like the best deer call video ever. Like I think that's what it's called on Deer Site. It's quite a bit old now. I mean, you'd be blown away by some of the things he's pulling off with calling in deer. And I was cameraman on that hunt too, and it was just unbelievable. I didn't even know what was going on. He's just painting pictures. This 170's working us. There's a hot doe somewhere in the brush, and he's just for 15 minutes he's working this deer. Finally, he comes in and slams it. It's like probably the most unbelievable calling video you could watch.
Dang.
Which one was that?
That's Rod.
It's quite a bit. It's pretty
Rod.
old. It's like 170 inch. I think it's like the best hunt ever or something.
Was that like 2010 time frame?
You're testing me.
I was trying to think. I mean,
whatever.
I remember seeing it.
The hunt is coming to mind. I remember your guys' videos are really like, they stick in your mind. Like I can remember most of them. I feel like when you're like, oh, that one, like the croaker one, or like the icebreaker buck. I'm like, oh yeah, I remember
that.
So it's 8 years old.
Okay, so 16.
1.1 million views. So and these videos are crazy because we put them out there and it's like people just keep watching.
Just keep watching them
as much as they watch the new stuff. So yeah, it's a very, very good video.
Well, I think it's a fine line between like they're cool hunts, right? But what you're learning and pulling from seeing calling in action and things like that, and the deer vocalizations, like from the actual deer, are, I mean, super valuable. Because I remember the first time I went to Kansas, I think I was living in Missouri at the time, but I hadn't hunted there much. And I went to Kansas, and I ended up, and Kansas deer, calling at them, no offense to anyone listening to Kansas, fairly easy, right? Like those deer just respond to stuff. I saw that buck. I grunted at him. He went off to push out another buck. I snort wheezed at him. He snort wheezed back. He still didn't commit. I roared at him. He came through and I shot him. And it's like that wouldn't work in most of the places I hunt, right? It probably over. He was at 30 yards when I was doing all this, right? Over vocalizations at him at that. But because I was in Kansas, like that's just what they do. Like that. He was in. I could tell by his body language, even before I got there on camera, that I knew that deer was just a bully. He was just pushing deer around. He just wanted to fight. So I knew I could throw the kitchen sink at him, and he was going to be like, all right, I'm tired of this. I'm going to commit. Where some of these deer, like you look at, and you could tell, like, I don't know, man. Like if I throw a snort wheeze at him, he may be tail up and gone, real quick.
When in Rome,
Yeah.
So
have you seen a video of that Indian kid? He's like, your body language
No.
speaks to me.
No.
That's all I can think about what you're saying.
No, that's not seeing that one.
I'll have to pull that up later for you.
Okay.
but if you guys look at, you work with Ben Rising a little
Yep.
bit. We work with him. We break down some.
We don't work with him. Well, I guess you sponsor him with Deer Grow, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
He's just a friend.
Yeah.
Yeah, great. Phenomenal hunter, shooting giants every year.
One of the best, I think.
He's called in so many deer, rattled in so many deer, but he does it when I interview him, when I talk to him, when he's on set, like he's doing different tactics every state he hunts. Like in Ohio, he's not doing the same thing that he does when he goes to Kansas.
Mm-hmm.
Completely different tactic. He's still calling deer in, but completely different strategy. So he's having success. Everybody's adjusting.
He's just reading the room, basically.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's a huge part of it. And I mean, it's kind of like when we talk about like buck fever, and it's like, well, how do you get over buck fever? I think you just have to kill a pile of deer with your bow. Like you just have to do it. You have to get used to it. You got to break that cycle of like just being super nervous every time something happens. But in terms of the calling and understanding what's happening, you just have to be in the woods and you have to experience that. I mean, I couldn't tell you the number of deer I screwed up on when I've thought, oh, like I'm going to snort wheeze at this deer and he's going to commit right to me, and I do it and he blows and tucks tail and he's gone. I'm like, well, the hell, it's just those experiences that you start to get. Or, how many times we've been in, I say Kansas because it's just the one, but Kansas and I've like I could hear deer running in the brush and I hear a buck roar and I'm like, holy cow, that's what it sounds like. That is the action that I'm looking for. So until you kind of hear and visualize these things and see them and likely make mistakes, it's not just like, go out and hope that it's going to be success. Like it takes time and it's an art form, I think, honestly.
Well, it's not all like trial and error. Like a lot of it is observation, know?
Yeah.
It's just like listening to, if you spend time in the woods, like how many times has you heard a buck coming because he was grunting? That was the first thing you heard probably, so then you can internalize that and you're like, oh, okay, they're doing this fairly often, this time of year or whatever. So then you just try to replicate it.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, we've had really good hunts early season. My dad shot a velvet buck in North Dakota. A few years back, we had a lot of communication, fawns and does walking around, coming in, making a lot of noise. Early season, I think it even surprised him. Like, these deer are communicating way more than people think.
That's exactly it.
End of August, even.
Yep.
I've rattled in a buck the first week in October right now. Light sparring, changing it up.
Yep.
Tried to sound like two young bucks. Actually did a little behind the back rattling
trick.
trick.
Little tickle the tine. We like that.
And he circled in. So that's the hunt breakdown's called a hunt for double split or something. It's from a few years back, but like it's not just a rut thing. It's not like,
right.
It's October 28th, now it's time to bust
Bring
out.
them out.
Like it's a communication thing. Don't just focus on trying to be aggressive and make a bunch of noise and bring stuff in. Every season is going to be different on what the deer are doing, what they're thinking, what you should be doing, just like your hunting strategy. Shifting from food to those rut stands, like shifting your calling from just bachelor group mentality to, breaking off into that October lull when bucks are kind of wanting to be by themselves and getting all, beat up and ready for the rut. So,
yeah. Well, do they start to get, fired up is maybe not the right word, but there is a transition that happens like towards, aggression, out of bachelor group mentality. Like I had a buck break a brow tine off 2 days ago, September 28th. Likely rubbing, probably not fighting. He's, but still like there's some aggression there to be able to break something like that off. There's a big tree somewhere that he's shredding up, so yeah, like you're saying, and just on the very first day too, also September 20th, I saw yearling bucks like pushing each other around, like getting out, throwing dirt up, kicking dirt up and stuff. And it's like a buck will respond to that if he feels like somebody's in his territory or just wants to check them out,
Well, it's October 1 now. Just talked to a guy right before this podcast. He was hunting, his buddy's hunting a 200-inch buck over in Kansas. Been passing up a pretty good boldy buck, like, I don't know how big, but not 200 inches by any means. Trying to get on this bigger one. And then they got some trail camera pictures and, these bucks went at it that night, like 2 nights ago, 1 night ago. And the 200-incher, if it's 200, somewhere in that range, that caliber of deer, snapped the entire half of his rack off.
Wow.
The cap out September. So, we're not even in October.
Oh,
yeah.
He breaks off half his rack. That's a full-on fight. Those are two mature bucks.
Absolutely.
Getting after
laying it
they
down.
Could have died. They could have locked up, died. So, to say you can't rattle even aggressively right now.
Sure.
There's an example of 2 bucks just getting after it. So,
yep. Oh yeah. And again, you just, understanding the deer behavior. Obviously testosterone levels are rising, but fall shifts are happening. Deer are coming into areas where maybe another deer has already set up territory. Like these interactions are just going to continue to happen. And yeah, it's just kind of understanding the vocalizations. I guess, JJ, for my understanding, because one thing that I haven't really heard in the wild and use, but sparingly, would be more in like the doe bleats and doe grunt side of things. What would you say from that end? And again, I know situational, but like when would you really try to tie some of those into a calling sequence?
The actual just doe bleat is probably the entire year.
Okay.
I like to shift, like on the extinguisher, there's a range. So there's actually a fawn range up top.
Yep.
And it goes to doe with that slide and then buck deeper or shallower, younger. I'm not afraid to do a doe bleat, just a standard doe bleat any time of the year. Cause like we just talked about, you hear it all the time.
Yep.
You start getting in more aggressive or just more, loud sounds like an estrus bleat where you're extending it, big buck grunts and roars. Like I personally, again, personal preference, like to wait till the pre-rut starts to kind of kick in a little bit. And then it can be extremely effective on the front end of the rut and on the tail end of the rut, like post rut, when those bucks are a little bit more desperate.
Got ya.
Desperately seeking phase, as you see on some other. That's the, jury's coined that one. I think desperately seeking that post rut. So they're out looking for that last hot doe. Perfect scenario, catch them with that. Maybe even a couple buck runs or a little spark. It kind of depends how he reacts, but that's what I would use. Estrus would be on those front end, back end of the rut. Peak rut's tough. Lockdown, as you could call it. Some people call it lockdown. It can be a tough time to hunt.
Yeah. I think it is. I think it's one of those things that the more you hunt in that time frame, and again, hopefully understanding your area a little better, the more you realize like that time frame is a grind. It's, it isn't all day deer movement, and in fact, I think if I've killed any in that time frame, it's usually tending a doe and just, again, I've pulled them through, or just coming off before they find the next one, and so, which is why, like, people say, well, you can kill him at noon. Yeah, he comes off at 11 and he's looking for the next doe. Sure can. Like that tends to be it. But for sure, from
what are the
call
dates?
standpoint,
like if you were to say, like, hey, bucks are locked down, like, does anybody feel like they have that iron?
It just varies. Like where JJ's at in Minnesota is going to be a heck of a lot different than like Kentucky or, Mississippi.
Yeah. And even I go 2 hours north to Wisconsin, even though it seems like I would go east. I actually go east, and it's about 2 hours straight north of here. I see the phases of the rut kick in 3-4 days before. It's crazy. Right. I don't know how that happens, just a 2 hour drive north, but it happens every single year.
Yep.
Bucks are out just cruising, and like that pre-rut action you get maybe October 23rd when I'm hunting Wisconsin, maybe October 27th.
Yep.
We're hunting in Minnesota.
Yeah.
It just shifts.
I've even seen it like,
because we're always like blaming it or like, oh, lockdown. But I don't know. It's like, can every buck really be locked down at the same time? Like, does that happen? Or?
I think in an area that you're talking about, like if we're
talking about where, Ohio or Illinois or
I think in Ohio, we see that a lot from like the 5th to the 11th or so. That would be like because typically after that, when people are like, oh, the rut's getting over, I'm like, man, some of the time, like the 12th to the 15th of November and like in Ohio, like is cranking, and so I think that 5th to the 11th, give or take, is usually when I would consider more lockdown phase in Ohio.
How about in Iowa?
I don't know. I've never hunted Iowa.
Because that's when we're going, the 5th through the 12th.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think you'll be on the front end from, I don't know where you're hunting, but
Southwest.
Yeah. So it would be shifted back a little bit. There's general dates, like there's no always and never. Bucks come in, bucks breed to doe for maybe it's a couple of days and then they're off again. So then they're not locked down during the lockdown. So it's just the higher percentage of bucks are locked down, if you want to call that.
Which
it's
is
not everybody.
It's one of the reasons that more and more that 23rd to the 31st of October, I really like.
Yeah.
It's just, too. There's a lot of, if the weather's right, there's a lot of activity happening.
I just like October, period.
Yeah.
October's great. Dude, you time that weather right, like, you don't have to worry about the lockdown. It's just, are they there or not?
Yep.
If you play that weather right, they're going to get up and move.
They're going to move. Mm-hmm.
Huh.
What is... Tomorrow night is the night. Yeah. What does the day like of lockdown look like for a buck? How far do you think they don't just lay in one spot all day? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Do you think is there feeding that happens? Like the doe's got to eat.
Oh, dude, have you ever you've seen a buck?
I've seen them. Like,
dude, that doe is up and just nibbling all over the damn place.
Yep.
Yeah, she's just kind of nibbling, browsing.
And they're going to probably be in the bedding area situation. Like
they don't move
most
fast,
of the day.
Though.
No.
That's if anything. Like I've the two I've probably killed on lockdown. I bet I've watched for like 3 to 4 hours cover 150 yards, maybe.
So like that buck you killed in Pennsylvania, you would call that lockdown?
Absolutely. Yeah.
The thing that I see a lot that's interesting, and it's kind of depressing, you see a group of fawns come through.
Yep.
I call them fawns, half-year-old bucks. And there's no moms to be seen. And it's like this fawn train comes out and they're all feeding.
Oh, those moms are out getting pounded.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you see that, and it's pretty good odds. Like, where are the mature does and where are the mature bucks, or just bucks in general?
Yeah, they're together.
A lot of fawns. Fawn train, not good.
Yeah, not good.
So,
Yeah.
Got to get back in the cover a little bit more where those does are, and sometimes they're just trying to hide. That's when you start seeing them in random
Those
areas.
little ass pockets. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, those little like drainage ditches and stuff in the middle of a field, and it's just like that's where he's pushed her because they basically another buck has to be on top of him for him to even get close because everything else he's just standing in the wide open field.
Yeah, I feel like we've all thought about it. I mean, do you guys know anybody that's had success hunting one of those spots that's like, oh, a buck would push a doe up into here, and it's like, okay, but once a year, twice a year, like, I've never had success doing that.
I know some of our guys, especially like Rod White, that was one of his big tactics. But you got to be willing to not see any deer for like a week, and then all of a sudden you might get your opportunity. So it's not my style of hunting, but yeah, I do know people that have had success doing that.
I've seen a lot of them like when they do like the swamp hunting and stuff, they find some of those like dry islands in the swamp and stuff. And those become key points for like those push up bed type opportunities. But I don't hunt a ton of that stuff. So yeah, I mean, there's places that anytime I'm driving, like I'm looking, I'm like, man, that'd be a good place for them to like push up, or that would be a good place to push up.
For instance, from my parents' house, you can see there's a little triangle of woods. It's like an acre and a half. And people have told me, old timers, they're like, come rut, a buck will push a big one up in there, and
probably.
I've never been able to bring myself to like spend time hunting it. I just haven't. I'm like, I can't sit here in this little island of woods surrounded by big ag.
Yeah.
For a week and not see anything. Like I'll go crazy.
I mean, that's it. I think that's the style of hunting that it takes to probably get into those deer. Yeah. Yeah. I'd rather be on the edge of bedding and just in the action. Like, even if it's just satellite bucks pushing them around, if I see the same 6 satellite bucks all day, I'm like, pretty good day.
Well, I have seen it. As a matter of fact, in that block of woods that I'm talking about, years ago, as a young man, I was hunting like another brassica plot down there, and like there's an argument to be made for getting down early, in the same way that there's an argument to be made for just driving around instead of hunting, because they're up at that point probably on their feet, and if you're not seeing them like right where you're at, so I got down out of the stand and I walked up and around, and I was like just getting out early, and I looked up, and sure enough, there was a buck that had pushed a doe up to like right below my parents' house there. It wasn't there at the time. Yeah. But I never would have known that. I mean, that was one of those situations where they had gone out there together and just probably they were locked down out there, and
just locked in.
I don't know how I could have hunted that necessarily, but the HUNTR Podcast is brought to you by Lone Wolf Custom Gear.
Man, Jared, we are tree stand fanatics, and I think the one thing that we have learned over all these years is to kill big bucks, we got to be mobile. We've been hunting out of Lone Wolves for many years, the original Lone Wolf, and then obviously with the custom gear stuff, we're using the 0.5 and the 0.75. Yeah. And the one thing that we talked about is like, what if there were no cables? Here we are.
I really just don't know how you can beat it, frankly. But, a lot of that came, too, from a relationship that we've built with the Duquistos. We've had both Cody and Andre on the podcast a few times. The passion for hunting, the outlook on the sport and stuff, I think is eye to eye with how we look at it. Everything that has gone into building this brand and to building these tree stands is something that we want to be a part of.
This is the 40th anniversary of these guys creating tree stands that have been critical to how we hunt whitetail deer today. If you look over the past, you'll see Andre's designs being implemented across so many stands over the years. Such a cool thing, but really has changed the way that we all hunt whitetail deer from above now.
Right now, you can use code HUNTR, HUNTR, to get 7% off anything on the entire website. Be the Lone Wolf.
I always try to reflect back. You talk about, JJ, when you were like getting into bow hunting and stuff like that as a kid. Like I always try to look back and I iconically remember like a handful of deer that like I saw as kids and vividly a couple that were like locked down. And I'm now in retrospect trying to think like, were those bucks as big as I thought they were? Or was it because I was like 13 at the time, and like,
who cares? It was awesome. Yeah. I had some of those.
Yeah. And I just like, those were the ones where it was like, you were saying it earlier, Jay, you're like, I don't understand like how this didn't work out. Like he was there, I was here. Like it didn't like what didn't work out with it, and the wind was probably blowing right at him or I was moving or whatever. But yeah, I mean, those are crazy.
Yeah, the cool thing so we've been filming for, I don't know how many years now, our hunt. So looking back at that footage and trying to understand, why didn't that situation work well? And you look and you're like, oh, I think that deer actually was smelling me or he saw me or something.
Yeah.
But at the time you didn't understand that body language. So then you look back and now you understand why. But if you could just go back, take all your experience now, go back, and redo it again,
Kill some slammers.
I don't know if I would do anything.
At the same time, it's like you almost don't want that footage because then that buck that was, just, the legendary Monarch was really just probably like a 3-year-old.
Yeah, 150-inch 3-year-old.
I don't know if I would do anything differently. It is funny to reflect on that. Like, maybe I just got lucky a lot as a kid, but like I think I fumbled in. I blew it, right? Because I missed a lot of them.
Mm-hmm.
But I just remember having a lot of encounters that just like, I don't know how they came together. But now it's more coordinated. And I'm like, okay, and I understand why they're happening, and I can set them up basically. Mm-hmm. But back then I was just like, I would just go into a spot like willy nilly, with no consideration of the wind, and probably walk right through a giant ag field to get to it, and sure enough, I would see deer,
Yeah. I mean, I sat in the same 2x4 built tree stand. I don't care what way the wind was going. I sat in it and I walked across the cut bean field to get to it. Like, it's just.
Well, there's something to be said for that though. We definitely, it's very easy to overthink situations, or to be like, oh, this wind is not, but
yeah,
sometimes you got to try stuff,
Yeah, I know. And we talk about it a lot. Like when we first started hunting, it was me, my dad, and brother. We still hunt together, but it used to be like stand A, stand B, stand C. Who's going to A, B, and C tonight? Nobody looked at the wind like this 20 years ago, 25 years ago. Nobody looked at the wind. We're just hunting those spots and didn't have very good success. And as things progressed and we started just, working through, learning a lot more, shooting a lot more deer, working with these incredible hunters, and just starting to learn through them, ingesting all their footage, interviewing them, breakdowns, understanding that that's kind of where the whole scent control, playing the wind, that's a huge thing that we didn't really have in the arsenal early. And now that we're adding it to the arsenal with the strategies of access and stuff, complete game changer in our minds. And on the illusion side, I talked about, we already make, scent control products, the phase system, body odor system. That was a product that was invented and created by somebody else. We did not invent that product. But when things come to you and you start using them, I was using that product for probably 3-4 years before, because I'm a skeptical guy. I'm like, Dad, like, not working. He's like, dude, it's working. Trust me, it's working. I'd have deer coming downwind. I'm like, no, it was the thermals or something. Like I didn't, they didn't go downwind to me and not get me. It wasn't the phase. But then the more and more I kept using it, I started, believing in the system and getting just like, now I'm just a scent control freak with it. But it was kind of a progression there too. And then we rebranded the product, loved the idea, the concept, the technology, brought it into the Illusion product line, because it does play, we're all about education, whether it's through Illusion, instructional videos, Deer Society, through hunt breakdowns. We have an Art of Deer Hunting series we're coming out with, podcasts, all that good stuff. Scent control is another aspect. Like, this is something we could really dive into, strategy-wise, education-wise, lean on other people, see what they're doing, what's their strategy. Everybody's got different strategy, but take the best of it and go from there. So that's kind of how we've morphed from different categories. Now we're kind of in the food plot thing, and there's some other things, Jared, we talked about with acquisition of the business and the, selling the business, acquisition, the Skull Master with the DIY taxidermy. There's kind of a whole different spider web conversation there. But yeah, that's kind of how things progress. It's just, does the product work? Can we educate people? Do we believe in it? Okay, this is something that we should move forward with. So
yeah, for sure. Some of my favorite deer hunting scenes on YouTube are Ben Rising rubber that field foam all over his head. He gets into the stand. Yeah, he loves it. That's that one B-roll scene he's got to have, is the field foam.
Yeah, he's a big lotion guy, and so is my dad.
Dude, hey, me too. When I opened that box the other day, I saw lotion. I said, I'm in.
Yeah, that's always a tough one. I mean, talk about hunting Kansas. That wind will dry your ass out quick. You best have some good lotion.
Big lotion guy over here.
Yeah. Yeah, that's Ben. Every time I see that, I jack him around, and he's like, I'm just a sweaty guy. Yeah. And I was like, yeah.
Well, some people are super sweaty and some aren't, and that's another factor. Everybody's different. So you got to kind of do what works for you. Some people sweat a ton. I am fortunate where I don't sweat too much. So that works well for me. But yeah, the field foam's money. I mean, I just love that stuff. We've had some crazy hunts. We were hunting the other day. It was 85 degrees. We got in the blind, and my dad's just dripping wet, soaking wet. And he'd laugh at the video. He's like, "You got to field foam me. You got to, get my back." He's like in there taking his shirt off. He's taking a bath. I'm like, "Dad, what are you doing right now?"
Oh, it's hilarious.
But, like 5 minutes later, these does came in, and one of them we knew. She has a blue eye.
Oh,
She's
wow.
At least 8 years. It's blue eye, so she's blind. She's at least 8 years old. And she came into 3 yards in front of our blind with no wind, and she didn't pick us up. It's like,
damn,
we got away with it here.
Yeah.
So it's we're big time believers. I know everybody's not, but it's definitely something that I use heavily in my tactics.
Well, as I say, it's an interesting topic, right? Because like if you,
where are you standing on it now?
we're
both in between, I think.
I like to be clean.
Best practice, be clean.
I like to be clean.
Wash your stuff.
Yep.
Hunt the wind.
Yep.
Do we believe that you can eliminate scent? And you guys probably don't either, I assume.
No.
But no, yeah, you can't entirely. It's impossible, right?
Yeah.
You got stuff coming out of your mouth. You got stuff, coming out of your head, and
Yeah.
it happens.
Yeah, but I'm definitely like, if I can be clean and unscented, then I want to be clean and unscented, I guess.
You ever seen that Always Sunny episode? Yeah. Be clean.
Be clean.
It's coming out of the couch.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Well, dude, I'll use it. Like, we're not, we're not affiliated with any scent company or anything like that. And I'm like I told you, I'm a sucker for free shit. So
The sweat thing's a big one. Like whether it's early season, like right now it's 80 degrees out or whatever. Or
I just don't like to sweat. Like
if I'm hiking in up here on the mountain a mile, like I'm gonna sweat.
Ugh.
Like it's inevitable. In fact, I was laughing. I didn't think I texted him yet, but like, have you watched Rising's Ranger video yet?
Yeah.
I like when he
From
got
last year? That's old news, dude.
Well, yeah, but when he got caught with his shirt off, sitting in the stand,
He was field foaming.
I was freaking dying. I'm just picturing Ben Rising shirtless up there, like ready to kill this 200-inch deer.
Oh yeah.
And
but that footage is pretty crazy. Yeah, no, I mean, we always play the wind. That's kind of like the default, like play the wind, have good access, try to eliminate scent on the ground. Like that's a big thing. I don't think people, think about scent control and they don't think about ground scent. Like you're leaving that.
That's the biggest thing, probably.
They're walking around at night. Like if they pick up on you, that's a huge part.
Your presence has been left.
To it. Part of what we do with our technology is the dry skin. So the dander, like that's a physical particle, dry skin. So if your skin's all dry, so I got salon quality products and high moisturizing and encapsulating the odor, encapsulating the dander. That's where the lotion's big. I'm not a lotion guy. I don't use lotion throughout the year. But
right.
Kind of sold on it in the fall.
I use it daily. So
I do too. I am a big, my face gets dried out, dude. I got to have lotion. I'm usually
I used to get like bloody knuckle. I would, hunt every day.
Oh, yeah.
It was like a badge, like when I was, 15, 20 years old. Like if I can hunt every day for 30 days, I'm going to be the best hunter ever.
Oh, yeah.
But that's not the case. We obviously know that over hunting spots and stuff. But I would have skin was so dry from some of that soap I was using. It was like bloody knuckles and just not good at all.
Not good.
So trying to prevent that and then got to keep that sweat, that bacteria down to a minimum.
That's the big one.
Like my gear has been sitting outside for 4 weeks.
That's what I was going to ask. What's the gear side? So just open air.
Yeah. I mean, it's been hanging on the line since before open or early September, and it's going to sit there until I'll keep, my late season stuff's not out yet because I got a little bit of time.
Yep.
It's still pretty warm for late season bibs and stuff. But yeah, I got clothing lines at my house. Got a shed out at our hunting spot with a clothesline, like gear sitting out there. Always
I assume
outside.
Under roof.
So there's a lean-to there, so that will keep it dry. My deck obviously is not waterproof.
Yep.
But it's better than nothing.
Okay.
It's got a cover over it. But I mean, that's huge. It's so big.
I agree. I like the fresh air. I'm not at that point though. Like I just washed my stuff yesterday. Just cause I was, and I watched because I was watching some McCory stuff there, and I'd love to have it hanging out there, but I'm not losing sleep over it either. Like I put mine in a bin.
Well, so that's what I was going to ask. What about travel? Because we travel to hunt a lot.
Yeah, so bin is key, but my bin's out there air now too. So I don't want to have a bin that's full of like odors and bacteria and plastic. Smells like I have a bin that's probably been used for 5 years. So it's been outside in freezing weather. And I mean, it's neutral. It's a neutral environment.
Well seasoned, you might say.
Is it
seasoned
sealed bin?
Yeah, like a sealed bin with the clips on the side.
The yellow lid with the black bottom?
No, I don't know what brand it is, but it's like brown with a tan top, red clips on the side.
Ew, brown.
Very cool.
Well, the reason I asked sealed is this was years ago I would have done this. Because what happens is you sweat in your stuff or it gets wet and then you put it in a sealed bin and it's completely stagnant in there. So I drilled big holes all through my tub. I have a pretty porous tub that I keep my stuff in.
Yeah, if my gear gets sweaty, it does not go back in the bin.
Just hangs up. Hang it up.
Well, that just gets washed, so there's another layer ready to go.
Oh, gotcha.
Like we're just rotating.
Yeah.
Yeah, sweat leaves the gear collection.
Yeah.
Right away.
Here's another dadism I'm sure you can relate to. My dad wears every layer to the stand. I'm like, I don't understand. I'm like, how do you not sweat? He's like, I don't want to be cold. I'm like, I'm wearing like a t-shirt to the stand. Like for scent reasons or whatever. I just don't want to sweat. Or like, I don't want to feel wet.
Base layer walking in for sure.
Minimal.
Yeah.
Minimal. Yeah, the least I can wear.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if you can be cold, like chill your body. And that's what like we talk about. It's weird. We got a scent control instructional videos and stuff. Like cold shower.
Yeah.
You probably don't like it, but it's going to seal you up. It's going to cool down your body core temperature, and you're not going to be sweating as much. If you're just taking a steaming hot shower and you get out, you're instantly overheated. Like before you even walk, get in your truck, go to the field, your body's just way too hot. Yeah. You're starting to sweat.
You're absolutely right.
Stay cool.
I do that in the machines. So if you're riding a Ranger or an e-bike or something, it's like I'm intentionally trying to get cold so that I can make it to the stand without sweating.
Yeah, AC's cranked on in the truck. I mean, my shoes are off. I'm just, the lightest layers possible. Then I'm changing to a new actual light layer out in the field, wearing minimal layer up if you need to going in, field foam, lotion, like just full on.
Yeah.
As much as you can do. And
that was some ground I gave up. There's getting a call from Missouri. I don't know who that is. I wear my stuff in the truck now.
Do you?
Yeah. And I know, and so here's what would go through my brain there is like, I get out of from the gym and I know I'm sweating and stuff and I'll get in the shot, then I'm sitting in that same chair. So I know there's bacteria on there and stuff. Not ideal. Here's my idea. You guys can add this to your product line or whatever. We need a seat cover, like a towel that is two colors. So you know which side is the dirty side and which side is the clean. Yeah. And then wash it and then just have that for the season. Because if you could cover up your seat cover, that's all you would need. And then you could wear your camo in there. It's not like the air particles are causing a problem. It's direct contact with that seat you've been sitting in all year after the gym and stuff like that. So that's what I probably need to do is wash a towel like that.
I agree with that. And I like the concept of seat covers during the season. I also not sure if you're like an air freshener guy, if you get a bunch of pine trees up on your mirror hanging up there, but that's
what am I 17 black ice
in the environment. I don't know. I mean, I get into some people's vehicles. I mean, you can smell certain people, with colognes and
he's back. Stop talking about him. He said you could smell certain people. That would smell to him.
Certain people they wear certain colognes, or maybe they got their hair cut and the person was, so like those things are big too. Like it seems so odd to talk about this. Like I don't want to get a haircut anytime even close to when I'm going to go hunting. I do not wash the inside of my truck. I don't even want to wash the outside of my truck because you park it in your garage and you go there and the next day you're like, oh, someone got a car wash. Like it just smells like soap.
Yep.
So there's just certain things that just don't do. I don't do.
Interesting.
I'm with you. We were talking about a seat cover. It was like, I think that's a critical item that I need to add to my arsenal because I'm getting out of the gym and I'm sitting right on the seat.
Mm-hmm.
It is a seat cover, but it's cloth. It holds some kind of thing. And I knowingly am wearing my camo into the thing just because I'm not going to go dress it. I'm just not going to do it. We need just like a towel material is not the right thing, but like more of a canvas, something that's like less likely to retain scent and has one color on one side and one on the other. So you know what goes against the seat and then you could just sit on it, have like a seat cover.
Yep. That'd be good.
Keep you cleanish.
Yeah. I think I still have the the pleather Cabela seats. So like I just wipe them down all the time.
With what?
Just like a unscented like cleaning cloth, like disinfectant cloth.
Yeah, that'll do it.
Actually, I probably use like one of just the wipes and just wipe them down.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then back to the bin thing you asked about how I keep so I don't put sweaty gear back in my bin, but we don't sell ozone products. We don't use the ozone in the field because we're trying to actually test our own products and understand what the actual data is showing. But I do believe that ozone can kill that bacteria and use that in a bin situation if you don't have washer, dryer, clothesline.
Yep.
If you're on the road, like one of those just little portable ozones, throw it in there. Definitely, I use that. I've had, when I go to Wisconsin, it's my in-laws' property that I can hunt, and I've used their washer and dryer. One time my gear got really wet and I had to wash it, and they've been using lavender for past 12 years in the washer, and not good situation. When I took that suit back out in the field, even though I was using phase to try to wash my gear in there, it was completely contaminated, and I got back out and I was getting blown at by every deer in the whole woods. So we'll not do that again.
I do use I have a different washer and dryer that I installed in the house here. I wash all my stuff, like street clothes and
everything.
Uh-huh.
Just in the separate one?
Yeah. Just like during the season and leading up to it, I have like all my clothes are separate, including my street clothes. I just kind of like leave everything downstairs. And
that's what I was going to ask. So does Margie just use the other one for herself? Interesting.
Yeah. So we just have like separate.
Are you checking trail cameras and doing some field work in your day clothes, and then at least you're kind of scent neutral? Is that the idea? Or
well, all season I'm like, it's the hiding in plain sight, type of a concept. I don't wear any scent, any elimination to anything. Like I'm wearing just my regular boots or tennis shoes or to do all my cameras and stuff. And it's not like they're buried in bedding areas. Like they're on, minerals and food plots and stuff like that throughout the summer. But then come season, I'm more intentional about not wanting to leave scent in certain areas. So,
yeah, same strategy here. All the clothes get phased out, whether it's jeans, sweatshirt, outdoor clothes, Osseo, we wear Osseo gear, outer gear, whatever it may be.
Yeah,
all the same.
Yeah,
all across the board.
I kind of circling back of like where my stance is on it. Like I really like the hang it outside, leave it outside in the natural setting, but my travel is what gets me when I bounce to Ohio farm or Kentucky farm. Like it's 3 to 5 hours travel, and I'm there for a day, and then I jump to this one. Like it's just in and out of boxes.
We're constantly traveling. Like there's no line to hang it on.
Yeah.
JJ, you guys do a lot of out of state hunts? I know you said you're just bouncing between Minnesota and Wisconsin, but
yeah. We got teams all over, so we got people filming in pretty much every state. Personally, like I said, I'm just pretty much doing the border bounce right now. Just got a 5-year-old, 3-year-old, and 1-year-old at home, so it's
that'll do it.
It's tough.
That'll do it.
We'll get through that in a little bit, and we'll start bouncing into some other states. I got points for Iowa, and definitely plan to do some North Dakota stuff. And
how many points in Iowa?
A little bit. I got 4 in Iowa.
Yeah, we drew this year with 5. With 5, it'll be our first time out there, so pretty stoked about that. Yeah, zone 4 is where we drew.
What's is Minnesota $1?
$1. Well, there's some certain CWD zones and stuff right now where you can get a buck archery, a buck shotgun, a buck muzzleloader. So there's a $3.
Oh wow!
Different weapon.
Yep.
But for the most part, it's always been $1. We had some APR stuff back probably 8-10 years ago now. But now it's pretty much any legal antler deer, $1. Other than every zone's different. Like we can't use scents here. We can't use lures, Ross. We use raw frozen scents. We're partnering with them a little bit. Love their stuff, but I can use it in Wisconsin. Can't use it here.
Interesting.
So no attractants, no scents.
Interesting. Like what qualifies? What about like fresh earth, like cover scent?
If it's an attractant, I don't really know. I'm just not going to go into that world.
But no, like deer urine or anything like that.
No.
Yeah, even synthetic.
Correct. Yep, nothing.
Interesting.
Just in our zone. A couple zones here southeast because we had a CWD thing, and I got blown out of proportion.
HUNTR Podcast is brought to you by Spartan Forge.
Dude, maps. mapping, right?
Yeah.
It all starts with a map, a visualization of a new property, into the fine tuning of different food plots, different habitat projects, where those are going to go, all the way to sharing pins and looking kind of like beyond the layers with something like LiDAR, which is exclusive to Spartan Forge as of now.
Yeah, and whether we're looking at it from a management side to put in food plots or switchgrass, or if we're taking a run and gun public approach on Kansas, it all starts with a map. It starts with a strategy there. You and I are going to have our own Blue Force team, which will allow us to run our own devices, but be able to see what you're adding or what I'm adding to that single map, which is really going to be critical moving forward this hunting season.
That's right. So if you're looking for a mapping software to try out this year, or maybe you're just like not getting what you need out of the one you're using currently, Bill's offered us a promo code of HUNTR20, HUNTR20, that you guys can use to get your own subscription up and rolling. Check out Spartan Forge, download the app, use that promo code, and we'll be using that this year.
Make sure you check out Spartan Forge. Yeah, that's tough. Well, I mean, and you talk about your like border jumping there, the hard part we were just talking about it is like, if like you said, hey, tonight's the night. Well, it's probably also the night in Wisconsin, right? Like with the way that weather front comes through, and it's like you can only be in one place at a time when it happens. So yeah, even if you're like, well, I'm hunting whatever, Minnesota and Ohio, it's like, okay, great. Well, tonight's night in Minnesota, tomorrow's the night in Ohio. Are you going to really jump in tonight and drive there? Otherwise, you're going to miss it. It's just, it narrows down to such small windows.
And ideally, you shoot a buck early in one state and you can focus on the other state, because they do have similar ruts, which was the plan this year. And I was texting you, Jared, day 2, that early season target buck went down by the neighbor. So didn't get the early season kill out of the way, because that would have been nice. Focus on that one situation. But yeah,
I don't know what that's like anymore. Yeah. Because we always say that, and I'm like, I started in North Dakota, so I had a North Dakota tag. I've got an Ohio tag, 2 Illinois tags, and an Iowa tag. And it's good. It's good. It's good.
It's good.
But it's like it would be easy to get stressed out over that. I think the reality is like it's not realistic to think I'm going to fill all those. So
it's just an opportunity to like go wherever the big deer that you want to chase is at.
However, there's somewhat of a strategy to that. So it's like it's kind of fun too, because it's like, all right, so we have food, like we have good food and a pattern we can control in Ohio and in Illinois. Mm-hmm. And 2 in Illinois is just greedy, right? So I'm like, okay, or bonus, I should say. So okay, I got Ohio and I got Illinois as good. Like I got good early and late season food patterns potentially. Mm-hmm. Iowa, we don't. So the strategy is like, okay, let's pack as much rut type activity and pre-rut into Iowa as possible, because once that opportunity's gone, like you make it past mid-November or Thanksgiving, it's like I don't know what our options are going to be there. So. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of tiered in that way. So like start close to home here in Ohio, maybe jump out to Illinois mid-October. We'll see what happens here. There's some bucks to hunt. It's just do we get the weather and are they daylighting? Then Iowa, like late October, we'll probably do a quick one, like 3-4, and then a hard rut hunt in Iowa, just because it's Iowa. It takes 6 years to draw, whatever. Let's just go give it our best, and then pick up the pieces from there on out. Is pretty much how that will go.
Yeah, pretty much.
Get back on some food patterns if they exist.
Yeah.
Do you guys enjoy just chasing mature bucks, or do you like to hunt for just like one specific deer and be like more laser focused on that?
I am much more an opportunist on mature bucks. I don't say I could care less, but like, I know of a 180 right now in Ohio, and I very well might shoot a 140, just because like I'm more excited about the, when the conditions come together for a certain spot. So I like, tomorrow I'm excited about, there's this 130-inch 8-point. I'm going to take Corey and we're going to film. Yep. And then the next day the wind's going to switch and I'm like, I'm excited about that spot. I'm going to go give that spot a try. So I think I'm more excited about spots and killing whatever mature deer is in there than I'm about specific deer. But Jeremy's on the other side of the coin probably.
Yeah, I'm a one-on-one guy. Like depending on, and I don't know, that's kind of what's weird right now is like I don't, so what part of it, JJ, is I flipped all of my cameras on my properties to SD cameras. I just kind of was getting burnt out with the cell cam thing and just kind of wanted to bring some more surprise and just normality back into it. not that there's anything wrong with cell cams at all. I mean, we're using them on some of our other places, but on my home farms at least. So I'm still I've got a couple in Ohio, and I would assume there's one or two of them that I'll end up dedicating my time to right now. I don't have one in Kentucky yet, but I'm more of a, when I get on that deer, I put the blinders on pretty quickly. But I like that style a lot. It honestly, if anything, it just lets me focus a little bit more.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you guys are cutting out just a little bit, but I think the video came back, the feed. Yeah, I'm definitely more along the line of, finding that mature buck and, following him. I don't know if you guys have seen like the Hunt for Beamer.
Yep.
Some of those bucks where it's, 7, 8-year-old bucks, and you get to watch them, you get to learn from them a little bit, try to figure out what they're going to do every year.
Mm-hmm.
And then eventually hopefully get a shot at them. So that's kind of what drives me. You talk about earlier, seeing that monster buck, how does he get that big? Trying to understand that. It's like this majestic, legendary deer. Like those are the ones that I really try to find them, and then the hunt's on. So
yep,
that's especially when I'm just hunting, a couple states at a time, whether it's 2, 3. I can do that if I feel like if I did start to spread too many tags, it would be very hard to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But I really like that.
Yeah,
I enjoy that. That's the thing I think about every day, is those certain deer. Like, when are they going to show up, or where are they living right now? It's
I
July.
know, man.
Like, what are they doing
That's
now?
where my brain is. I think Iowa is different because we don't have any history with Iowa. We're not going to have any history with Iowa. So in that case, it's I'm just going out there to kill a big mature deer. That's my goal out there. And I would say, not in a cocky way, but in a boom bust. Unless it's 155 inch 8-point. I'd like to kill 160 inch plus mature deer. It's Iowa, right? It's
just to justify the travel. It's there's a lot of good deer between here and there.
Exactly.
So, if you're going to drive out there, it should be worth it.
But I think in the other places, it's that we have more history. We have, more focus on. It's that one-on-one with the deer. I'm in the same way, JJ. Just thinking about, I've got a couple deer. I've got one deer that frankly may be young, but could show up as 170 inch 3-year-old this year in the mountains of Kentucky. And I haven't checked the cameras yet because they're SDs, but in my head, I'm just well, where is he? I know he's there. I found his shed. I'm sure he made it through. Where's he going to show up? What's he going to look like? And those things are just constantly rolling in the back of my head, in perpetuity.
How does that dynamic work with your dad and your brother? Do you guys you're okay, that's my deer, I'm gonna, or are you all hunting them, or how's that work?
Yeah, I like that question because I was listening to your podcast with Andre and Cody, and thought that was quite interesting how that works, that dynamic. And I would say even outside of just, hunting with my dad and brother, we got a great team of guys here internally, whether it's 7, 8, we're always bouncing ideas off each other. Guys are hunting different deer. We try to stay out of each other's way, but be very helpful. Hey, let's strategize. Let's sit down for a half hour. Let's look at Onyx. Let's try to figure this deer out. Here's what we got for 2, 3 years. It's like a team mentality, right? Mm-hmm. So even with my dad and brother, tonight, I just saw my dad walk by. He's probably getting ready to go out, but I'm going to try to go film him tonight on a 5-year-old buck that we've been after. And, I hunted the other day. He couldn't make it. I'm well, I'm going to film because I want to get some footage cold front, this certain situation. I'm going to film. He's bring your bow, shoot that deer if he comes by. Yeah, I would have shot that deer.
Sure.
That's the target buck, but I would rather have him shoot it right now. I want to film that. I trust myself, capturing the story, capturing the footage. Want to be a part of that. And I would enjoy that probably more, filming him kill that deer. Now, sometimes when there's a real big one, gets a little tricky, but we work as a team and it's been good. So
yeah.
Well, but you guys are all on different properties. That when you're talking about this team of guys, everybody has their own property, right?
Yeah. And sometimes we're hunting next, by each other, the same deer.
Well, that's fine.
Target bucks.
Nothing you can do about that. It's when you're on the same property, you're okay, who's, he's going to walk by that stand. Who goes?
And I think, it's easy with my dad and brother because we work with each other every day. We hunt with each other. It's just the way it is. We're happy for each other. I think I have a different mindset. I want to kill the biggest buck ever. But if I were to be hunting with one of my, say, best friends and there's a 180 walking around, like I would hope that he wants me to kill that deer as much as I want him to kill that deer. And we're going to work together. Somebody's going to get it. We're going to get it on film. It's going to be part of a story. We're both involved in that.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think that's, I've shot some good ones lately, and it feels like I can kind of loosen up on maybe trying to always shoot the biggest one.
Yep.
And I don't feel like I have pressure to do that.
Yeah.
I'd rather other people succeed too.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's a good place to be. I think a lot of my, if I answered that same question there, being out of necessity it's more so because like it is a close group of guys, but we're not all like exactly eye to eye on like, how to hunt the property, first, and also, which deer to shoot. So, I mean, we're trying to be, right. But there's 5 or 6 guys, and so, it's like and I'm running all the cameras and stuff. So I'm trying to communicate, okay, here's what's out here the best I can. Right. But deer move in and this, can't control everything. And so it's challenging from that perspective for me to be like, hey, that's the deer I'm after, or I don't know. It would just be tough to get that to work. If it's Jeremy and I, like on Illinois, like that's very doable. You know what I mean? We're like, okay, here's the one deer, and he and I would be perfectly happy with the other one, and we would do it that way.
Yep.
But when you start getting to that many guys, it creates a lot of challenges for obvious reasons, I think. But
yeah. I mean, I think that we've been walking this fine line, JJ, and that it's like we keep saying like they're just deer, right? But it's there's a limited number, especially when we start talking about mature bucks and stuff like that. And so, it's where's that fine line? I think to your point of like you've been able to find other joys in hunting that aren't necessarily you sending the arrow, essentially. And I think that's important when you're talking about hunting with a group of guys and stuff, is figuring out like, the camaraderie aspect or whatever it is behind it is still of value and something that's enjoyable as part of the hunt versus like, being the guy that's trying to just make the kill every time. But if anything gets, squirrely in that situation, it's when a giant shows up, right? Like when a giant shows up, then it's like,
yeah, people start biting each other's head off.
Yeah, it's like, man, I'd be happy if you shot it, but I'd also
be a lot happier if I shot it.
It'd be a lot better that way. So yeah, it's a tough situation in some of those. In fact, I was talking to a guy the other day in Illinois, and his buddy basically had hunted this 190-inch deer.
Somebody you would know for sure.
Yeah, somebody you would know for sure. Hunt this 90-inch deer for 30 days straight through November, and didn't kill it. And the other guy that owned the property with him
probably flung a few arrows at it.
Yeah, probably went out the next week and killed him on the first sit, and it ruined that friendship completely. Like it blew it up, and it's like, clearly not the guy's fault who killed the deer. Like he just was like, okay, you're done hunting, cool, I'll go out now, and he killed it. But
we think, yeah.
That's one half of the story.
Yeah, it's one half the story for sure.
But I mean, that makes sense, right? Like big deer make people angry for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, and some of the things, so I'm, as far as like the family dynamic goes, I'm typically the one hanging the stands, trail cameras, overall strategy, just real involved with it. My dad and brother helped me quite a bit too. But one thing I like to do is we now own a property, so we put that together. I get some permission properties too. So I kind of have a little bit of I do work on those properties for the permission, whether I'm, planting some food plots or, putting some, helping the landowner, running cameras. I'm doing stuff. I'm helping them be successful too. Maybe they gun hunt, I bow hunt, it's a trade. I'm like, hey, here's some deer out here, kind of help guide them a little bit, but give them some guidance.
Sure.
That's a property I can go and shoot whatever deer I want, really, which doesn't impact, if my dad and brother are on a good buck somewhere that we hunt together. So try to give a couple different opportunities. I got a couple different permission properties. I got the Wisconsin tag where they don't hunt there. So just, if there's a big one in one spot we're hunting together, I'm okay with, or happy for them to go hunt the biggest one, because I know that I can I'm going to keep grinding throughout the whole year.
Sure.
I'm going to keep going right till the end. I'm going to find a buck. I'm going to hunt a buck, whether I shoot it or not. I'm going to keep hunting. So got no problem with target bucks dying to other people's arrows, which is why, day 2 of this year, was watching a buck all last year, a good 4-year-old kickers, big 8, big frame. Kind of had the vision like next year, I know how I'm going to kill that deer. It's going to be this kind of video. I'm going to sit at this spot. Here's the storyline. I was just planning for this thing, and hunted him day 1 because I knew he was kind of hanging out with the neighbors. And then day 2, neighbor shot him. He ended up running on the property I had permission for. So then we figured out, the guy got him and stuff. So just trying to have options.
Yeah.
Just as many options as possible. So that situation isn't like there's one big deer and there's 5 guys that want to shoot it. And, I want to be the guy and we're all fighting for it. Like, try to relieve that pressure a little bit.
Dude, that's not talked about, I don't think, a whole lot, is how many options it takes to like really afford you the opportunity you're looking for. I mean, if you're looking for a certain class of animal, like, I mean, dude, if you and I sat down and like wrote out all the places that we could hunt or totaled the acreage and stuff, not just because like we're spoiled and we're, because we work, in some cases, you have family property and stuff, but also you have permission places, you have leases, you have other farms you went out and bought. I went out the other day and got another piece of permission just because I'm like, dude, I don't know, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And it really takes
a lot
options. Like the more you can stack on, I don't know what the number is. It's like how many options do you have to get the opportunity? But it's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's too much, and then you're into the scenario where you're just hunting deer movement.
That's
really
it.
Targeting a buck. Are you going to focus on one? You can only do so many areas, whether it's in one state or 5 tags in 5 states.
Yep.
So it's trying to balance that.
That's why I tried it. Like, obviously it was simpler times, like growing up as a kid, but like I had one tree stand that I sat whenever I hunted, morning, evening, October, November. Like that's just, that was what I hunted, And the only time I hunted somewhere different is my dad didn't go out and I sat in his stand and I was like, this is awesome. Because it was like a whole change of scenery, right? Yeah. Like sitting in a new stand. But like I was trying to kill like a deer with the bow. Like, it didn't matter. And it was still super tough, right? So I kind of hear that now, and like not thinking that everybody has like the complete financial flexibility or time flexibility to do it, but if somebody says, well, I've got whatever 40 acres and I'm not, I don't have anything I want to hunt. I'm like, well, go find one. Like, I don't care if you go to public, like you're sitting around and just saying I don't have one is not getting you any closer to finding one. Mm-hmm. Like, just go find one. Like, I'm in state forest ground on the mountain here looking for a mature buck because I don't have one right now in Pennsylvania. Mm-hmm. Will I find one? I don't know, but at least I'm trying and I'm having fun doing it. Like, I'm out there legging and seeing scrapes and rubs and like just being out there.
Yeah, and then trying to find one, trying to get more options is one thing, but then trying to wait for one in an area where it's not. I'm waiting for a 5-year-old buck. If you don't have any like anywhere nearby, what are you waiting for?
What are you waiting for, man?
So, like, what's the expectation? Try to be realistic, and it's okay to set the bar a little bit high, but you don't want it to be a possibility of 0.
Yeah. It's got to be realistic. I mean,
my dad did that for a few years. He's like, I'm waiting for 150. I'm like, I hate to break it to you, there ain't one.
He's not
there.
There
ain't one. He's like, well, I'm gonna keep sitting. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, he's not there. Yeah, it's a weird thing. It's like, it's not that the options are endless, but there's definitely other options to go and try to find one. Or if you are like, hey, well, this is the farm. I mean, HUNTR was kind of like that. He's like, listen, if he doesn't come here, then I'm not hunting him. And it's like, dude, you got to manage your expectations then, because if there isn't one, they aren't just going to magically appear. Mm-hmm. It's just how it is, Even if you're in Iowa, like it might just not magically pop up to show a 170.
He's caught between two. It's like you could say there's nothing better than killing a giant buck, like a world class buck, and then you could also say there's nothing better than killing a buck on your own property. Mm-hmm. And he's like in the middle there, where it's like that, but it's just, they don't happen every year. He's in one of the best places in the country for it to happen. And so it's like, he's getting by, but
it's the danger of owning ground, right? I mean, like everybody, I would say that it's almost everyone's dream as a deer hunter to own a piece of their own ground. Yeah. Like you could say that it's not, but like, people want to do that. But when you've put that much time and financial resources into it, and especially a year like this, like how many guys right now are sitting on a piece of ground that probably is awesome, but they just got smoked by EHD. And it's like, Are you just going to waste your season and be hunting your property because you're paying a mortgage on it and you put all this in? Or are you going to go and try to find a buck to hunt? Like that, I understand as a landowner, I understand like the value of like, man, I really would like to just kill these deer on my property. But if it's not there, like, why would I waste my season? Like, go find one.
Yep. The HUNTR Podcast is brought to you by Sever.
Well, one of the biggest things that we always talk about is what our arrow setups are. And this year we're shooting the Sever broadheads. I think we're both shooting the new 2-inch titanium broadhead. And so, we're huge proponents of expandables. And I know we've had this argument back and forth with people, but we're
right and you're wrong, and you just need to accept it.
We just want to have a giant wound that pumps out blood. That's the bottom line.
We build our arrow setups and shoot bows, to maximize penetration, and we shoot broadheads that are going to give us the best blood trails, the most hemorrhage possible. And so part of those setups is we're also shooting the Easton arrows here coming up pretty soon. So we've shot the Victory in the past, and there's all kind of great arrow shafts on the market, but like we're looking for a whole system from broadhead to arrow components to the arrow shaft itself. And, the more we look at some of these Easton shafts and the components that go with them, that setup's going to be really deadly for us.
Yeah, I'm actually using the Easton traditional axis right now in my traditional setups for both my recurve and my longbow. I've got a 100-grain brass insert on those, and then obviously I'm using a fixed blade broadhead on those specific shafts.
Right on.
So, but yeah, our goal is always to be shooting the best broadhead that we think is going to be the most lethal for our setups. We've done plenty of research. We believe in the Sever broadheads, and we hope you would check them out at Sever Broadheads as well.
Are you guys seeing more success on, and I'll give you my opinion after, I want to hear yours, on managed properties or on the unmanaged, kind of overlooked, maybe easy to gain access to type property? Where are you finding the biggest bucks?
I would say I'm seeing more of the bigger bucks on unmanaged pieces. Maybe I don't hunt those as frequently because for whatever reason it's harder access, or like I have one piece in Columbus that there's a bunch of other people that hunt it. But I would say, like, in general, like Iowa or even Kansas, like I see bigger bucks on unmanaged pieces than I do managed ones.
Me too. But the variable that's difficult is that the managed one is the one that our guys hunt.
Yeah.
So it's like, that's why. And we kill some deer off of it. So,
the bait also is a big effect on our managed places. Like, so Jared owns in Ohio.
I'm talking in Ohio. So like an example would be, be careful with how I say this. Like our core farm is like the one we manage the most, and like it's got a great crop of like it's definitely helping the herd, but it's hard to like keep my guys off of shooting a 4-year-old buck, So we do that and we have success there, and boom, boom, boom.
And you hunt it the most.
A lot of the biggest bucks that I find are on satellite pieces that just no management, we don't touch, and it's just because we're not hunting it.
Yep.
But also we're not managing it. So I don't know if it's because of the management or just lack of hunting. Or both. I don't know. I think our Illinois farm's going to get a lot better this year because we managed it, and by management I say we have food on it.
Yeah,
so
we have food. Yep.
Food equals good.
Yeah.
Usually.
I mean, I think the presence is a big one for me, at least in terms of what I'm seeing. So like my farms, I'm generally not on them just because I don't live there. I hunt them, but I'm just not on them throughout the year. And I see a lot of good bucks using them, as well as a lot of good daytime movement on them. Because I think they feel secure. Nobody's in there. It's not very visible from the road. I plant food. I mean, that's about as far as the management goes on it, is put food on it. Yep.
Yeah. So here's my opinion on it. What I've been seeing is the managed properties have better deer quality. I wonder if you guys agree with this, but the cap is always a little bit lower.
Yeah.
So it's like people are so good at harvesting the deer. You want to use that word, killing the deer, shooting the deer.
Yep. That
the cap is like right here, 4 or 5 year old buck.
Yep.
And I know a lot of people that own businesses where they guide or they, manage properties and flip them and things like that. And they're so efficient at shooting these good deer that they never get the great deer.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what, and we now own a property here in Minnesota. We manage it. Neighbors are managing. We see some good deer.
Yep.
We've had a couple pretty old bucks, but it seems like these permission properties that I gain access to, they have just something a little bit different with them, whether it's a quarry next to it, or a waste facility plant, or like an anti-hunter next door. Like, that's almost a little bit better recipe. Or in Wisconsin, I got big swamp land next to me, something where just like deer densities are low, but big areas where a buck could survive. So it seems like the cap's lower on a managed property. The quality of hunt's much better.
Yep.
But everybody's ready to pounce when the deer hits age 4, 5, whatever that may be. That deer's dead. Could be 3. And some of those big ones really come from those properties that are a little bit overlooked, a little bit different. Maybe there's not huntable trees, a little bit of set aside. That's that I feel are residential.
I would agree with that assessment.
Well, and I think you're seeing some of that too, even like from a state basis. Like, look at a state like Kansas, where, for a long time there's basically draw every year. Now maybe it's every other year, but I mean, the amount of guys that were smoking 150-inch 3-year-olds is off the charts in a lot of that state. And so what was once like, you could go out and see 8 and 10-year-old bucks running around on there. Now, I mean, is dramatically decreasing, and that's not necessarily a management issue. It's just kind of what that state had been known for, and popularity, and people started hunting it. And not that we're like great by any means, but if you take a state like Pennsylvania that's got giant national forest and state forest area, some of these remote areas, guys are killing 180 and 190 inch deer in this state, which, when I was growing up, we killed spikes and 3 points. It's just it's overlooked. It's large. The large remote areas. I agree, JJ. I think the management aspect of things, we're getting so good with all the tools and technology we have, plus the ability of information to manipulate the habitat and the landscape is like, if you've got 5-year-olds using your property and you just stay off of it, and you got food in a box blind, you walk in, you get in a box blind, you kill that deer. Like, he's dead, right? Like, you call your shot, he's dead. And so, I think as you start to look at what people are wanting to hunt and wanting to kill, sure, there's a handful of us that are like, I want that deer to reach maturity. I want him to reach 5 and be at maturity. Most people are not holding off that long. Most people 3, maybe 4. And so if you want a deer to reach, that pinnacle of being just a giant, like, odds are he's not doing it at 3 or 4. He needs to get older.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. And even some of these permission spots that I got, it's more of a frustrating type hunt too. You might have landowners walking dogs and things that are happening where, a lot of people get frustrated. I try not to. I used to get really upset, like, oh, hunt's ruined, until you just realize that happens all the time.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. The deer's used to it.
Tried a couple years ago, I think it was 2021. Landowner went for a dog walk. I saw the dogs come out, whistles blowing, they're dog trainers and stuff. I'm like, this is probably not a good night. They left, still had about an hour left to light, had one of the biggest bucks I ever missed, walked out, gave me a shot, flung it over his back, probably 160-inch 8-pointer. I mean, big. Permission property, no management, basically a giant hayfield with some tree lines, and just had the right stuff around it. But people walking dogs, things going on, people driving around, and so it's kind of fun to get into those scenarios too, and not get so focused on, the managed aspect. So, we got the property. I'm all into food plots. I'm a geek. I'm a freak about all that stuff, and done timber cutting and prune apple trees and finding fruit trees and digging water holes. Love it. Do it all the time. But, also love the aspect of the element of surprise and a property you don't know what's there, and the permission, and hunting other hunters that have permission, working around them.
Yeah, I do very similar. That's what I'm doing, right? So like our core farm we manage, and I, food plot the crap out of it, and it's awesome. We're digging water holes, and don't get me wrong, I want to shoot a big deer off of there, but like that's like my confined awesome playground that I get to go, and like I'll be like, hey Corey, let's go, and I'll film Corey, and then my Uncle Day, I'll be like, dude, right here. You need to go kill him right here Thursday. That's my parlay. And then in the meantime, I'm just bouncing around, like getting permission, I've got just more of those satellites. So I would say I hunt those. I would hunt those more. It's very similar to my strategy. That's what I do too.
Yeah, I think it's we try to talk to people about it, but it's hard for anybody who doesn't have land or have that ability to manipulate it. It's like that year-round activity, the management, the food plots, the cameras, the habitat work, like that's just a whole nother deer season for most of us. Like that's just, we look forward to some of that stuff as much as we do the actual season itself. And so when you say like, great case in point, what you guys just talked about, of like, okay, like it's set up, it's teed up, it's great, but I'm going to go and hunt over here or over here. People are like, what are you talking about? You just spent all that time and all that money to like do all that. Like, why would you leave? And it's like, well,
listen to this. There's a bit of a complex where you put so much work into managing the deer that like, you almost don't want them to die. That's how I feel.
Yeah.
Especially when it gets past mid-November.
Yeah.
Because even then, these deer that I'm like, Corey, Dale, good dad, let's go kill these deer now. When it gets to like the end of November and like they make it through or they make it past the gun season, I'm kind of like, okay, nobody's killing any more deer. Like we're done. They're going to live at this point. You guys missed your chance. So.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
you want them to live. You put that much,
Yeah. It's the anticipation of what can I do and what are they going to look like next year type of thing.
Yeah. I have more fun growing them than I do killing them. That's for sure.
Yeah.
That's the culmination. They got to die eventually, but.
Yep.
And sometimes what I've realized is the biggest bucks I've shot are somewhat a result of me not being able to harvest the deer previous years.
Yep.
Because I should say I didn't have the skill or didn't get the job done. So
right.
Sometimes biggest bucks need a little bit of luck too, and it's okay.
Absolutely, man.
They elude you. Well, some of them will surprise you too. Like we had a buck that I misaged last year. I thought it was 4. It was probably 3. And it was not a high scoring deer, like mid-20s. And I told Dale to shoot it. And he came in and he's like, I don't know. He aged it correctly. He's like, I think it's 3. I was like, okay, whatever, fine. And so the deer lived and it came back this year as probably a 4-year-old and made like a pretty substantial jump. Like, he's not a giant by any means, but he's big, cool looking, like mid 40s, type deer. I'm like, and now that he's 4, I'm kind of like, boy, looks pretty good. Like maybe we should give him another year,
Well, I mean, that's the situation you get into. And that's where it's like, as like a deer manager and doing habitat stuff, that's the dangerous game that we play in. And it's why I think we chase, mature deer, is like, once you get a taste of seeing what a deer could do, and it doesn't mean that he's going to do it. It's like every year is well, boy, I wonder what it'll be next year. I mean, we've all probably seen deer this year already where we're like, next year that thing could be a stud. And it's like, we didn't even start the hunting season yet, and it's like, we're already picturing what he's going to be next year.
I've also seen him top out, and just not really, I'm like, boy, I guess that's as good as he gets, and sometimes they're younger than you think. But here's a cool one. I had a deer last year that I think was, I thought he was 4. He could be 3. He probably was 3.
Mm-hmm.
And he was decent, like 135 inch, 10 point, probably the one down, tall rat deer. And he showed up this year, and like we didn't hunt him or anything. He showed up this year and like went fairly downhill, like substantial. Like he might be like 125 inches now. And I just realized the other day he's got a big wound on his shoulder. Totally healed over, looks fine, looks healthy. But I'm wondering if he didn't get shot last year and that caused him to, go downhill this year. But here's the foresight on it. I'm pretty excited that deer could blow up because he's likely, people might not want to shoot him this year because he just doesn't look great. Mm-hmm. But I bet he's got the genetics. I bet next year as a 5-year-old, he could be a giant.
Yeah, pop off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I shot a buck last year. I think he's about a 4-year-old, but he had an injury as what I would consider probably a 3-year-old, limping, front leg injury. Yep. Had a really tough winter up in Wisconsin. We'll actually break this one down and release it, Hunt Breakdown. It's called Longhorn, big wide deer. But he came back this year in December, and then he had a double limp. So limp on the front left and limp on the back left. Oof. Rack was substantially smaller. Like when I shot him, I think he was 145 pounds dressed. Tiny
Wow.
deer.
Wow.
Andre the Giant shot that deer, same property, same spot. Year before was 245 pounds dressed. He was 100 pounds heavier dressed.
Yeah.
300-pound deer that was probably like 160, 70 pounds. Yeah, they're all different. That deer came back he was oldest buck on the property, one of the two. Limps, went downhill, just didn't grow at all from those injuries. But I was super happy, just as happy.
Yeah.
Because it's the target deer, it's the oldest buck.
Mm-hmm.
Score is not really a thing for me so much. Example would be this year, we got a buck that's probably 5, one of the 2 5-year-olds we know of now. He's an 8-pointer. Last year he was a 10. Year before he was a 9. He went 9, 10, 8.
What's he score this year?
I don't know, maybe 130. But huge body.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a trophy deer.
So where's the cutoff? So okay, because the deer we're gonna go hunt tomorrow is 5 years old and he's mid-30s and he's sweet. I'd probably shoot him. There's a 7 or 8-year-old deer on this property that's probably 100 inches that I just can't bring myself to go. I'm like, he's just such a piece of shit. Like, you know what I mean? I'm like, I just don't know if I would shoot him. But that goes against my mentality of like age is the trophy, right?
Yeah.
And then call me a liar. But
yeah. I mean, there's a little bit of cutoff there. I mean, you want something decent on their head.
That's where you wish you had 2 tags.
Yeah.
Or you got buddy or your fiance or wife or whatever.
I just can't even feel good about asking a buddy to come shoot this
That would be
deer.
a great deer for Margie to shoot.
She has no interest in shooting deer.
It doesn't matter. Just be like, go kill this thing for me, please.
Yeah. Well, if only it were that easy, right? But it's like, how many times are you gonna have to hunt to actually kill the thing and put pressure on the property?
A bunch, because he's 7 or 8.
Yeah. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what to do with him.
Yeah. I mean, I think that. Yeah, the score thing's tough because, I mean, we talk about it all the time. And it's, of course, like everybody wants to kill a big buck. Yes, for sure. The age thing is the most, I think, and more people are realizing it. It's the thing that you should attach yourself to if you're looking to kill, quote unquote, a trophy, right? Kill mature deer. I mean, like that essentially is what your goal should be, because, we've heard this nightmares of people like, well, I just want to kill a bigger one every year. Eventually you run out of room. Right. Or you're like, man, I got to kill a 170 plus this year. There are none. They don't exist. There are none around where you're at, where you're hunting, so you might as well just not hunt at that point. And that's a real defeating feeling.
Well, you want both, ideally. So you want a fully mature giant antler deer.
Yep.
And they just don't all either get of age and they die before that, or they maybe get of age and just don't ever put the headgear on.
I mean, I think
that sucks.
I think more and more it's like we as a hunting society, as the deer society, I'm at that ping.
Very nice. Well done.
Thanks. Could have giant mature deer if people didn't shoot them at 3 or 4. They would exist. They would be in the numbers that we see mature deer.
What are you saying? Sorry.
We could have as
our society
group,
here.
Our society.
Our group.
Yep. We could have giant antlered mature deer.
Uh-huh.
In great frequency if people would stop killing them at 3 and 4.
Well, yeah, there'd be more of them for sure.
A lot more of them. But instead, they kill the giant antlered 3 or 4-year-old and they slip through the not giant antlered 3 or 4-year-old.
Yeah, that definitely happens.
We high grade it.
Oh, for sure.
Absolutely.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's hunter nature. Like, we're drawn to big antlers. So
when you talk about managed properties, I mean, I would say most managed properties are probably killing just big antlered 3 and 4-year-olds.
You think so? I don't know.
I would think so.
Depends on the area.
Yeah, but I would say for the
depends
most
where
part,
you're at, I guess. But
yeah, I mean, how many times do you see, whether it's a video or whatever, somebody said, "Oh, this deer's 5 years old," and you're like, "No, it's not."
Mm-hmm.
A lot.
Just connecting eyeballs over here. Yeah.
I would say I'm glad that a lot of people shoot those deer because it makes the ones that survive that much more special when you find.
Oh, absolutely, man.
That's a better trophy. If there was a bunch of 5-year-olds, a bunch of 6-year-olds, just massive deer everywhere, you'd be like, man, you'd be looking for like, what's next?
Yeah,
like,
what's next? The unicorn.
Like 11-year-old, like what am I looking for now?
Yeah.
So it's in some ways, I know you guys experience like it's frustrating to not have a big one to chase in certain states, certain properties, but when you finally get one,
Oh, it's
10 times
awesome.
Yeah,
better,
I'd be okay if they
you know?
shot slightly fewer of them. Yeah.
Well, I mean, and
That'd be all right.
I guess I'll retract a little bit. Like I threw a lot of 4-year-olds in there. For a lot of people, I mean, 4-year-old is a mature deer. Like, I mean, for a lot of states, that's what, if you can get a deer 4,
You know what?
you're
though?
in good shape, man.
You know, I don't know who the authority is that said this is mature, because a 4-year-old is definitely not a fully mature animal.
No,
like,
it's
I'm just
not.
speaking objectively.
It's not.
As somebody who has and probably is actively hunting 4-year-olds,
Yeah.
they're not fully mature.
They need to get 5 or 6 at least.
Well, yeah, and I don't know. I'm not the authority on it either to say what is or not mature. I mean, eventually they just die of old age. So, I mean, you'd say before that is probably peak maturity. A biologist should know. You should know.
Yeah, it's 5 or 6.
That's peak maturity of a buck. That would be like, full expression of all,
Yeah,
of everything.
of
With body weight,
antler
antler
potential.
genetics.
Yeah. And I mean, there's arguments to that. Like, you know, where JJ's at and into Iowa and probably even in Kansas, some people would say that they'll hit their body weight, their max body weight and max antler size by 4 because of the nutrition availability and stuff.
Well, that doesn't make any sense, though. So why would they start going downhill? They won't. You're saying they would stay the same.
They would just plateau. Yep. And it doesn't mean that they won't change. Like, you know, if you see like a 4-year-old that's got a great frame and stuff, like maybe he just adds a little mass or something. Like he doesn't change that
I would
dramatically.
say that's more. I mean, mass is good.
Yeah, but maybe he decreases his time length. But in theory, if you look at the bell curves and stuff, at 5 years old, it should be about 100%. But the argument is in better nutritional areas.
They can express it sooner.
Correct.
Yeah.
Which is the argument to things like, I know we talked to, who we were just talking to.
This morning?
Yeah.
Grant?
Yeah, Grant. Grant was saying about like Milo's buck likely being a 3.5-year-old. I would assume that deer probably was expressing its full antler potential.
Pretty wild.
Yeah.
That was Grant Woods was saying Milo Hansen's buck was 3 years old, most likely.
So, and
However, they were going off the jawbone, which I find
it's super inaccurate.
highly inaccurate.
It's like 40%. So even say he was 4, I assume that deer was expressing his full antler potential, probably because where he was at, big alfalfa fields, high nutrition.
We'll never know, I guess.
We'll never know.
I find that I see that a lot. I see people being like, "Oh, I had a biologist age my jawbone, and it was 4," and I'm like looking at him like, "That's a 2-year-old." I don't know what he told you, but no, it's not.
I feel 95 to 100% accurate on anything 2 and younger, and anything 5 and older. But
You guys talking tooth wear?
Yeah,
or the
tooth
cross
wear.
section?
Yeah, tooth wear.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
as far as I know, the cementum annuli is very.
It's more accurate.
I think so. What I mean,
south of 70%.
What do you mean south of 70?
70% accurate.
You're saying it's not 70% accurate
Correct.
on the cementum annuli?
Mm-hmm.
So not very accurate.
I mean, it's better than.
Oh wow! I
replacement.
thought it was like 90% accurate.
Mm-mm. No, at least based on
Wow.
research. And it depends on the age class. Like it's really
Yeah, I
good
think
at certain age classes, not good at other age classes.
Yeah, I think it says like if you go to Deer Age website,
Yeah.
done that a couple times. I think it says on their website the accuracy of the.
Yep. I think.
What does it say?
I thought it was 80. It's not 100. It's definitely not
No.
100. It's in that.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that depends on location too. So like,
Well,
again,
yeah,
the
any
more
tooth does.
the more or the more northern the climate, the harsher the winters, the more deposit space to be able to see the annuli rings. Versus as you get south, they get blended.
Same
more.
with the wear, right? If you're eating more acorns and stuff, like
Yeah, sandy soils and things like that can grind it down. And now, back when we were looking at a lot of this research, we didn't know, but like now, like things like EHD and stuff, if they survive it, that's gonna lay a line as a stressful event and stuff in there, which is gonna throw it off as well. So, but yeah, they did it. They had known age deer. They did the cementum annuli. I would say on average, I think it was 66% from, a 1.5-year-old to I think a 6.5-year-old, just on average.
I think as a general rule of thumb, they're a year younger than everybody thinks.
Yeah.
Just like across the board.
Yep.
I think a
agree.
lot of 2-year-olds get called 3-year-olds. A lot of 3-year-olds get called 4-year-olds.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Well, we just watched that whole segment on Winky talking about those deer that he thought were 3 and then hunting them as 4. And in retrospect, he killed them at 4 and it was watching them at 2 and 3.
When I'm guilty of that too. Like, I know this, like what I'm saying to be true, but even still, I'll look back like that year I told Dale to shoot. I'm like, yeah, I guess he was 3. Like, I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't know what I was thinking. I was trying to talk myself into thinking he was 4.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still trying to talk myself into if that deer shows up in Kentucky, he's going to be 4 this year, not 3. Yeah, and he was a 2-year-old last year. Yeah.
Matt done that up, bud.
Yeah.
Have you guys seen the hunt breakdown we did last year? It's called Andre the Giant.
Yes.
I don't know if I have.
Yep.
So it's the buck I shot. We released it last year, shot it the year prior. If you watch the video, I thought the deer was probably 4 or 5 when I shot him.
Mm-hmm.
But he ended up being this 300-pound, 300-pound
Yeah.
mega tall giant, like way above every other deer in the scrape, and super tall at the back, but looked lean.
Yep.
Looked thin, looked
Yep.
young.
Oh, I have seen those. Yeah.
Spent the teeth in 7.5.
Really?
Like, I can't buy, I don't buy it. I don't know. I can't say I don't buy it because it is what it is. But when I go back 2 years on trail camera pictures and I show everybody and they don't know what deer it is, I'm like, hey, what deer is this? I show them a couple videos. 3, maybe 4.
Yeah.
2
And
years
7.5.
after that, it's 5, maybe 6.
Yep.
I thought maybe 4. I found a shed. It's up on the wall right here. But yeah, 7-year-old buck. Like, I don't know.
And I can't remember if they do it or not. They used to do it is like they would have a rating with it. So if they gave you like an A+ rating, then there was a pretty damn good chance they felt accurate with what they gave you. If it was like a C rating, then it was
The
like
degree of accuracy.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, man, I do think that from a deer standpoint, that deer I remember really well being tall. I have one in Ohio this year that I was arguing with my wife about because I was like, look how tall this thing is. She's like, it looks the same as it. And then I'd like go to another deer. I'm like, no, like his head is like in the branches. These ones are like trying to reach the branches. Like clearly he's a taller deer and she's, and maybe it's me just trying to justify if he's 4 or 3, but skeletal structure, I mean, especially when you start wanting to get a deer to 300 pounds is critical. Like if he doesn't have the skeletal structure on him, he's not going to make 300 pounds.
From an aging standpoint, though, I think that because Dale and I were arguing about this, I think you have to disregard height and weight like almost completely.
Yeah, to a point. I mean, it should still be proportional. Like if you talk about whatever chest versus stomach or whatever, like it all should still be proportional, no matter how high he is.
So here's the shed off that deer when he was 6. I guess
that's a hammer of a shed.
So,
yeah,
but I didn't know who he was. So I got one video from the year before, a couple of videos. He looked tiny because again, he's like, basketball player or something.
That freaking third circumference is beefy.
Yeah. So crazy deer. And then next year I shot like, a tiny one. It was 145 pounds or whatever. So, and he was super short, like same property.
Yep.
I don't know.
Well, even right now, I've got that deer that I'm like, that's 3-year-old. I'm pretty confident. And I'm like looking at him from last year. And then I've got another 3-year-old that's like a 3-year-old. Like, yeah. And I'm like, and they're standing right next to each other. I'll have you look at it after. I'm like, boy, are these deer the same age? Am I wrong?
I know, man. I think just, different body types.
I really would love to see, and I've been telling myself I would do it. I need to go back because I've got enough bucks that I'm like, I need to look at these things from year to year to year and then against one another. And then maybe
I do wonder how much we like overanalyze it. Like obviously everybody makes comments about your arms and stuff. If I put another 31-year-old male next to you, like are they going to be able to say, yeah, those guys are both 31?
What?
Because your body, your body, like you're muscular, you're bigger, right? If I put another just 31-year-old dude sitting next to you, like,
well, it's not just muscularity. Like if you put JJ and I next to each other, you'd probably think we're the same age.
And you're not.
No, what are you, 39?
6 years older than 37. You? Yeah.
37. So you're 6 years older.
Yeah. So like,
people think we're the same age sometimes.
I know, and I'm 40.
Yeah.
So it's like, are we given, I'm saying
you think that has to do with what, my jawline and your cheekbones?
Possibly. Yeah. I mean, but you see what I'm saying? Like, are we overthinking, like trying to say like these two are 3, these two are 4? Like, do they look that similar, or are they like us where it's like
no, they look different.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Like,
but they have a look to them, just like you'd look at JJ and be like, well, they obviously look different. Like JJ's got a rounder nose or doesn't have whatever characteristics, but you could still say, but despite that, they look relatively the same age.
Yeah,
you're the same way.
Yeah, but you guys aren't the same age.
Well, I know, but if we were,
yeah. I just wonder, like,
because that's what I do. I look at deer and I'm like, I mean, history obviously is a
the
great,
history's that's probably
that
the
helps.
only way.
But I just look at them and I'm like, 2-year-old or 3. They just look like a 3-year-old.
Yeah.
I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah. And maybe he is. Maybe.
And antlers do have something to do with that. I know
Sure.
people don't want to hear that, but like
Yeah,
basal
especially-
circumference is a big indicator.
But maybe you're like, yeah, that deer's clearly 3. Maybe he's 4.
Yeah. Well, and people
Maybe
just don't
two.
see a lot of 4-year-old deer. So when you see a 4-year-old, you're like, that's a giant. I don't know what he is, but he's old.
Yeah.
A lot of times they're 4.
I guess I look at it, unless he's like our crazy horse deer, where I'm like, but deer's ancient, like he's 6+, like, or I look at a deer and I'm like, that looks like a doe. That's probably a 1-year-old. But even that, like, I mean, we've had some arguments here recently on 1 and 2-year-olds. We're like, I don't know. Is that a really good 1-year-old, or is that just a average 2-year-old?
Those are tough because you want to start the aging train on the right foot,
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I just wonder if we are trying to compare something that almost is impossible to compare.
I don't know. I'm sure our wives would think it was silly. If that's what you're getting at.
Yeah, well, yes, they would. But yeah, I mean, I'm not saying like don't try, because like we have to. Or
JJ, we're not keeping you from going and filming your dad, right?
I will go film him here shortly, but
Do you need to get out of here?
Well, we will wrap up what we need to wrap up.
Let's wrap it up.
Yeah.
I will
Yeah.
get out there and
I know he was pacing probably a while ago. He's probably ready for you to go film him.
anyways,
he's
yeah,
probably
that's
out
it.
there. He's probably in the stand already.
Probably. Well, cool, man. Well, dude, we appreciate you stopping in and spending some time with us this afternoon. I guess before we let you go, main places to see the content, YouTube for Deer Society.
Yeah, by far YouTube's where we publish everything. Hunt breakdown per week started about, I think we're on number 4 for the year. So we'll run those, a new hunt every week through the rest of the year.
It's a lot of hunt breakdowns.
Yeah, it is. And there's a pile of 200 that's coming up. So we even got Ben Rising. We're doing a hunt breakdown on the Ranger buck he shot. So we
the field foam master.
Pretty sweet stuff coming up. We released one actually last week. It's called Gusher. That is going wild. I think it's got 250,000 views in less than a week.
Wow.
Nice.
So yeah, some good stuff. People love the hunt breakdowns. And then, we got a podcast, which is not like your guys' platform. It's mostly just like, hey, what are we seeing this week?
Yeah, we've seen it.
Yep.
It's
cool.
Yeah, I watched the one with Ben.
Mm-hmm. And Art of Deer Hunting is our new series on there, where we're kind of breaking down like the art of calling. Some of those videos talk about like, shouldn't you have some of these in the lineup? Well, yes, we are. We're going to actually release kind of that series there. So that'll just live on forever. We'll just keep hitting different topics, communication, body language, things like that.
That'll be an important one for people. For sure.
The art of scent control, the art of anything deer hunting is what we're going for there.
Yep.
The art of filming, that we could do some stuff on that. And then what else we got on there? We got all the instructional videos for different product related stuff and vlogs. So like people can, we toured the shop, the illusion shop. You can kind of see behind the scenes there. Throughout the year, if somebody shoots a big buck locally, we'll take you out to the field, give you a little live vlog look at it.
Cool.
And that's kind of the Deer Society side of things. It's all video based and on YouTube. And then Illusion is all the products. So it's kind of 2 different separate business aspects to what we do.
And you've got stuff, you're selling direct to consumer on Illusions as well as in retail?
Yep. So we do a lot of consumer direct stuff. And then we're in a lot of the big retailers too. So, your Bass Pros and Tractor Supplies and even Walmart with certain things, the new extinguisher and Black Rack silencer, phase. We got a lot of different stuff. So
awesome.
Check it out. That's illusionsystems.com. Social media is a big thing too for us. Like you don't just need the full content is always on YouTube, but we do a lot of shorts, a lot of reels, photos, education. Try to push it out there, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, which I don't participate in. We have like 290,000 followers somehow, so it's a different world over there.
It is very different.
Different world. But yeah, you can find Deer Society in a lot of spots.
Sweet.
Awesome, man. Well, yeah, dude. Well, we appreciate it. Have a safe season. Keep us posted on what you guys are getting up there. We'll be looking forward to watching some of these hunt breakdowns come through the next few weeks.
Sounds great. Well, I appreciate being on the podcast. Hope you guys smash a big buck before it's released and you send me some pictures.
The HUNTR Podcast is brought to you by Quest Hunt Co.
Man, it seems like as technology and social media and stuff just gets incorporated into our daily lives in the deer season more and more, it's like we're always looking for ways to just dial it back, spend more quality time with deer hunters, and really make deer hunting and deer camps great again.
Yeah, and I mean, we've all been part of that annual buck pull, whether it's at your camp or the local fire department, and we're trying to bring that feeling back with Quest Hunt Co. to be able to compete against other people in your state, but also be part of a national competition.
You can sign up in as many states as you want to enter deer that at the end are going to get scored, and you have an opportunity to win some big prizes. And there's an in-person banquet in February that Jeremy and I are going to be at where those prizes are going to get held out. I think we're going to do some sort of whatever, live podcast or speaking. We'll figure that out. But just looking forward to spending time with people who sign up for the tournament.
Yeah, so you can go to Quest Hunt Co. and sign up. Use the code HUNTR15 at checkout. They'll save you a little bit of money, and then hopefully we'll be able to see you in Missouri in February of 25 at the annual convention.
To make this season a quest.
The old black rack.
Old black rack.
Extinguisher. Yeah, it's cool. It was interesting to hear kind of the family background in that. I don't think I knew that. That his dad kind of started in the call side on the waterfowl end and how that evolved from there. But yeah, really cool to hear that. And yeah, the family dynamic working together, I'm sure is interesting as well.
Yeah. Well, it seems like they're all, of age. So they're big boys. They got it figured out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And obviously that business has expanded and the content line has really expanded from that side. I mean, clearly dude, releasing a hunt breakdown a week is a lot of content coming out of there. Yeah, it's something cool. It won't happen this year, obviously. At some point, that whole Minnesota, Wisconsin hunt scene, it
intrigues me. Wisconsin intrigues me.
A moth to the light. I'm a bit attracted to it to see what that's like and do it. But in fact, Cody DeQuisto was texting me. He was in the Wisconsin Bluff country or something, running around last weekend, and I guess whoever he had for a camera guy was like, "So are we ever gonna hunt?" He's like, "No, we're just not until we find the right place." And he just was scouting the whole time, motoring. So, but yeah, so something about that country attracts me. Just I envision just 300-pound heavy.
It's a big deer,
rack deer up there.
Yeah.
So someday on the list. But anyways, we appreciate JJ hanging out with us. If you're listening to this, because it just dropped. It's mid-October. So we wish you all the best hunting this week. Be safe out there. Wear your safety harness. Strap in. Points of contact to the tree. And we'll catch you next week.
Later.
Take me